Crystal, do you have your mic on? Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Board of Behavioral Sciences. We're meeting today at the Department of Consumer Affairs Board of Pharmacy hearing room at 2720 Gateway Oaks Drive, number 105, Sacramento, California. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Judge Van Ruyen, who will be presiding this morning. And with that, I'd like to go ahead with quorum.
Good morning. Christina Wong.
Here.
Crystal Anthony.
Here.
Dr. Leah Brew.
Here.
Jonathan Maddox.
Here.
Betty Conley.
Here.
Max Disposti.
Here.
Deborah Brown.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And I will take just a moment to have the board members introduce themselves, starting on my right with Christina.
Christina Wall, LCSW member.
Crystal Anthony, LCSW member.
Leah Brew, LPCC member.
Jonathan Maddox, MFT member.
Betty Conley, LEP member.
Max Disposti, public member.
Deborah Brown, public member.
And thank you. Okay. With that, I'd like to move for public comments for items not on the agenda this morning. Okay, seeing none, do we have any suggestions for future agenda items? All right, with that then, I will turn it over to Judge Van Ruyen, and we'll proceed with the hearings.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Good morning, everyone. We are here today before the Board of Behavioral Sciences for the Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California, to review various petitions that have been submitted to the board. We will generally be taking them in the order that they appear on the agenda, with one exception that I wanted to announce. Due to flight plans by one of our petitioners, the very last petition, which is by Adana Eugenia McGee, will actually now proceed third on the agenda. So we will have Ms. Palmer, Mr. Colon, Ms. McGee, and then Ms. Rivera, and then we continue with the agenda from there. And that's just, again, to accommodate travel schedules. So, all right, so first off, my name is Wim Van Rooyen. I am an ALJ with the Office of Administrative Hearings that's been assigned to preside over this matter. Today is November 20th, 2019. The hearing was scheduled to start at 8:30 a.m., but due to travel schedules of board members, we're getting started at approximately 9:20 a.m. here in Sacramento, California. And we're starting with our first petition, which is the petition for modification of probation for Olga Palmer, LMFT 47624 is the license number. And this is OAH case number 2019-100894. Although the board has already identified itself earlier for purposes of the general meeting, for each of our petitions, we'll ask the board members to identify themselves as well, starting with the board member on the furthest right, please.
Christina Wong, LCSW member.
Crystal Anthony, LCSW member.
Leah Brew, LPCC member.
Jonathan Maddox, MFT member.
Betty Conley, LEP member.
Max Disposti, public member.
Deborah Brown, public member.
Thank you very much. And I do find that a quorum of the board is present for this petition hearing. May I also take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Good morning. My name is Melissa Seamantle, Deputy Attorney General.
Good morning, Ms. Seamantle. And then the petitioner, Ms. Palmer, would you like to come up to the table in front here? Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. And I'll let the record reflect that the petitioner is present, and you are representing yourself. Is that correct, Ms. Palmer?
Yes, it's correct, Judge.
All right. Thank you so much. So before this hearing, off the record, I explained the procedures in this matter to the petitioner. I explained that the Deputy Attorney General will proceed first to provide an orientation in this matter, and that after that, the petitioner will have an opportunity to make a presentation under oath on your own behalf to explain why you believe the petition should be granted. The petitioner may call witnesses to testify on her own behalf, and the petitioner and any witnesses would be subject to questioning by both the Deputy Attorney General and the board members. Again, the board is particularly concerned with rehabilitation, not so much with relitigating the prior discipline. I'll remind the petitioner that the board has had an opportunity to review the petition package, so there's no need to repeat everything that's in there, but you're welcome to emphasize or highlight any particular points that you'd like to bring to the board's attention. After the hearing, the board will go into a closed session to deliberate, and the petitioner will not receive the decision today, but will receive it in the mail sometime in the future. Ms. Palmer, do you have any questions at this point in time?
No, I understand, Judge.
All right, thank you so much. Then I'll turn it over to Ms. Siementel to present the case.
Thank you. As I stated,
I'm sorry, the court reporter? Yes, we are on the record. Thank you. And we have been on the records. You have not been on the record?
No, I'm waiting for you to finish the introductions and now it's going to start with the Would you like to read the introduction? I apologize.
Yes, we're going to have to redo the introduction. It has to be on the record. I'm sorry, I will. All right, I assumed it. All right, we're on the record. My apologies, everyone. We'll just have to do the introductions again. We are before the Board of Behavioral Sciences, Department of Consumer Affairs for the state of California to review various petitions today. We will generally be taking them in the order that they appear on the agenda, except for the change that I previously announced for Ms. McGee, who will now go third on the list of petitioners between Mr. Colon and Ms. Rivera. First petition is the petition for modification of probation for Olga Palmer, LMFT license number 47624 and OAH case number 2019-100894. My name is Wim van Rooyen. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings for the state of California, and I've been assigned to preside over this matter today. Today is November 20th, 2019. Hearing was set for 8:30 a.m. in Sacramento, California. We're getting started a little bit late. It is currently approximately 9:25 a.m., and we're located in Sacramento, California. Would all the board members please identify themselves for the record, starting first with the board member on my furthest right?
Christina Wong, LCSW member.
Crystal Anthony, LCSW member.
Leah Brew, LPCC member.
Jonathan Maddox, MFT member.
Betty Connolly, LEP member.
Max Disposti, public member.
Deborah Brown, public member.
Thank you very much. And I do find that a quorum of the board is present for this petition hearing. May I please have appearances by the Deputy Attorney General?
thank you. Good morning. Melissa Siemantel, Deputy Attorney General.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Ms. Siementel. And for the petitioner?
Oh, good morning. Yes, I'm.
Ms. Palmer, correct?
Yes.
All right. I'll let the record reflect that the petitioner is present, and I believe you're representing yourself. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct.
Thank you. All right, so before the hearing, off the record, I explained the procedures in this matter to the petitioner. As I explained, the Deputy Attorney General will proceed first to provide an orientation in this matter. After that, the petitioner will have the right to make her presentation under oath to explain why she believes that the petition should be granted. The petitioner may also call witnesses to testify on her own behalf, and the petitioner and any witnesses will be subject to questioning by both the Deputy Attorney General and the board members. Again, the board is particularly concerned with the rehabilitation that the petitioner may have engaged in, and not so much to relitigate the underlying conduct or discipline. The petitioner is reminded that the board has had the benefit of reading the petition packet, so it's not necessary to repeat everything in the packet, but you're more than welcome to highlight any particular portions you believe that the board should pay attention to. After the hearing, the board will go into a closed session to deliberate. The petitioner will not receive a decision today, but will receive it in the mail at some point in the future. Do you have any questions at this point, Ms. Palmer?
No, I understand this part. I just, I do have some updated material since it has been close to a year when I petitioned the board. So what would be the time to give it to you?
Oh, you have some additional
Yes, I do.
exhibits? Okay.
Yes.
The time to address that would be during your presentation of the case later on. We'll make sure that, and you have copies for all the board members,
Yes, I
correct?
do.
Terrific. Thank you so much. All right. Then at this point, I'll turn it over to the Deputy Attorney General to present the case.
Thank you. As I stated previously, my name is Melissa C. Mantle, Deputy Attorney General. I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I am here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I am here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. Your Honor, at this time, may I approach with the petition packets?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's fine.
And a copy has been previously provided to petitioner. There are two packets. The first packet I would ask to have marked as Exhibit 1. That includes the notice of hearing, the certification of license history, petitioner's petition for modification of probation with supporting documentation, including a certificate of achievement, an appreciation note, 6 certificates of completion for continuing education courses, 2 letters of employment, and a transcript for an introduction to chemical dependency course. And then finally, the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order.
Thank you very much, Ms. Siementhal. And do you have any objections to admission of Exhibit 1?
Which is
All the
psych evaluation? No?
Exhibit 1 is just the regular petition packet that Ms. Siementhal just detailed all the documents.
Yes, it's okay. I would have only objection a psych evaluation to be a part of public
I
record.
beg your pardon?
If you could just
Psych
state again.
evaluation, yes.
Okay, we'll deal with that one next. That's Exhibit 2. Okay, so no objection on Exhibit 1.
No.
Okay, Exhibit 1 is admitted.
What I would ask to have marked as Exhibit 2 contains the psychological evaluation and psychotherapy quarterly reports. I have previously provided the judge with a protective order that we would request to have signed as it contains medical information.
Now, would you have a response to?
Yes, I would like to have a protective order on psych evaluation.
All right, and I have reviewed the contents of that evaluation, and I've also reviewed the proposed protective order, and I do and will sign the protective order because it reveals confidential medical and psychological information. So I will sign that right now, and then a copy of this will be served on you as well as on the Deputy Attorney General by the Office of Administrative Hearings.
Okay, thank you, Jen.
Thank you. Do you have any other objections to admission of Exhibit 2?
No.
All right, Exhibit 2 is admitted.
As a brief background, the board issued petitioner licensed marriage and family therapist license number LMFT 47624 on September 8th of 2009. The license expires on February 28th of 2021, and the license is on probation until January 11th of 2022. On December 14th of 2016, an accusation was filed against petitioner in case number 200-2015-001649. The circumstances underlying the accusation are that petitioner committed unprofessional conduct in multiple ways based upon her convictions for driving under the influence of alcohol with an enhancement of refusing a chemical test. There's also a hit and run with property damage and obstructing or resisting a peace officer. All of these convictions were misdemeanors. Underlying the criminal convictions, the facts are that a witness of the hit and run provided officers with the license plate of the vehicle involved in the hit and run, which was registered to petitioner. Officers contacted petitioner at her residence and observed signs of intoxication. Respondent was uncooperative during police questioning and interrupted the officers' questions by cursing. Petitioner became increasingly aggressive towards the officers to where the officers arrested petitioner and handcuffed her. Petitioner continued to struggle against the officers and scream profanities despite her juvenile son's request for her to calm down. Petitioner refused to submit to breath or blood testing. In the patrol car, petitioner hit her head against the metal screen separating the front from the back of the patrol car and resisted efforts by the officers to restrain her for her safety. Petitioner also failed to report her conviction to the board within 30 days of the conviction date. Pursuant to a stipulated settlement, petitioner's license was revoked. However, the revocation was stayed and petitioner's license was placed on probation for 4 years. The terms of petitioner's probation include undergoing a psychological evaluation, attending psychotherapy, submitting to drug and alcohol testing, reimbursement to the board for its probation monitoring costs, and completing coursework equivalent to 2 semester units in substance use or abuse. Petitioner has been compliant with all of her probation requirements. Petitioner is requesting modification of her probation to 1, eliminate drug or alcohol testing, 2, eliminate therapy, 3, reduce the frequency of attending AA to once a week. Because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements but would reserve the right to question the petitioner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sementel. Ms. Palmer, now is your opportunity to present your case. I'm assuming you'd like to testify on your own behalf?
Yes.
All right, if you could
Thank you.
please stand and raise your right hand for me, I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And you can, however you're comfortable, either sitting or standing. You don't have an attorney that would normally be asking you questions, so you can just feel free to tell us what you'd like the board to know. Again, I'll remind you that they have read the petition packet, so you don't need to repeat everything, but you're welcome to highlight anything focusing on your rehabilitation specifically. And then once your testimony is done, Ms. Sementel may have some questions, and the board members may have questions. All right, please proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Well, first of all, I want to to clarify that at this point, I would like to ask the board to remove my probation, not to modify, but to remove, to terminate it. It's my intention, because it has been close to a year, and I'm going in my in my speech, I'm going to discuss why, and the main reason, why I can ask for that now. On October 31st this year, I went to the court in Salinas where I had my DUI, and the judge granted me early termination of criminal probation and expungement of the criminal record. So far I have just kind of the immediate document, and I have a copy of it.
Okay,
Is
please
it time?
approach.
Can I approach?
Yes, yes, you may. Let me just take a quick look at it.
One of them is the last one. This is what I have. Yes, this is what I have for now, and I'm supposed to receive in a mail within 1 to 3 weeks. I haven't received yet another paper. This is all what I have for now.
Okay,
But
so let me just clarify. So you handed me, are these, I noticed there's a whole bunch of other documents.
right, it's related to other.
So you'll be introducing other documents as well.
Right.
But you have copies for, why don't you hand these to the different, to the board members, and we'll go through them. Thank you. Or just, okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And I need you to talk closer to the mic because the webcast isn't picking you up. Okay? Sneeze up.
And
Well-
Sementel, you've already seen these documents, correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Well, yes, I apologize. I don't go to the board meeting too often. It's my first one.
No need to apologize whatsoever. We just want to make sure we're all on the same page as to what the documents are, etc. Would you like to continue with your testimony in the meantime, and then we can
Yes.
deal with the documents later once they're
Yes.
separated out?
Yes, thank you so much, Judge. Well, first I want to express, since I'm here, and I want to express I still feel very remorseful and regretful. Well, it has been difficult 2 years, actually more than 5 years almost. I had DUI in 2015, March 2015. And at my only DUI, I think it's relevant to the case, and it's my only probation with the board, and I have license for, what by now it's 20 years, right? Yes.
How many years?
20, I think. 20.
If we could ask petitioner to speak up a little bit, that may assist everyone in being able to hear her.
Thank you, Ms. Siementel. Yeah, just pull that microphone really close to you and speak up as much as you can. That way we get a clear record.
Okay.
Order. Thank you so much.
It looks like I'm struggling to find the balance here. Is it good? Okay, thank you. So, next. Well, also it has been very challenging, I will put it this way, to be compliant with all the terms of board probation. And at some time I had some classes, some certain terms to do for the probation with criminal probation. But I did it, and I'm not going to repeat all what I have done, which is reflected in the original package, but I want to focus on rehabilitation and what I have done while waiting for that board meeting hearing. So during this time, I have completed psychoevaluation, and I completed the course, which is college course, equal 2 semesters. And I have been compliant with all terms and terms and conditions of my probation, which includes, which the most prominent stand for me, counseling, personal psychotherapy once a week, attending a 12 steps program, the way how it was specified in my probation. Any 12 steps program, I chose to go to AA. So twice a week AA meetings, and submitting to random testing, which was during the first year, were about frequency 5 to 6 times a month, and as now it's going to 3-4 times per month. Also, I work part-time, 20 hours, and the total I work for this organization for about 15 years. I also want the board know that when I had DUI, I didn't work as a therapist. It was a period of my life when I lived in Monterrey, and I work as a teacher, professor in DLI, language teacher. So, yes, it was in 2015, from 2011 to 2015. I just chose to keep my license active, but I didn't practice as a therapist. So, going back to current time, yes, being compliant with probation, I work part-time with the same organization. When I came back to Bay Area, they rehired me, well, because nobody else would hire me, I guess, and they knew me. I have a long history with them. It's a non-profit, small company, and we provide services to families and individuals afflicted with domestic violence and sexual assault. So total I'm doing it for 15 years. And when came back to work, I disclosed my DUI before the board learned about it. And so, yes, they were okay with it. They took me back. And the idea was I will become a clinical supervisor for this agency since I have very long history with them. But my probation kind of stopped me from being able to do it. And in one of the letters from my supervisor, I have two letters from. One is from Director of Clinical Services, and one letter is from clinical supervisor for the agency. So I believe she asked directly to grant me my request because they do need me. It will help the agency for me being able to be a clinical supervisor. Now I want to focus on ongoing terms which I'm still doing, and I still attending therapy once per week. I'm doing testing, like I said, about 3-4 times per month, random, and I'm attending 12 steps program twice a week. And I don't know how it looks on paper, but on practice it's busy. It keeps me very busy. And since it has been 5 years after my conviction, and especially after this expungement, when I was in the court in Salinas, the judge said, "Wow, looks like your board hit you harder than criminal probation." I said, "Yeah, looks like it." And he granted me expungement. So in my head, even focusing on what I have done, I think I with all my tests, it's kind of needless to say my last drink was 5 years ago during this DUI. I don't drink. And so my only mistake, single mistake, cost me like too much. And I want to share the last part of my speech, how being on this probation affect pretty much each area of my life. So first of all, financial, right? I share the document about the cost of testing, and I didn't include the collection side, what fee the collection side charge. This is just processing the testing, right? So also for each test cost on average $30, but on weekend it goes to 60, from 60 to 100. So it's very costly, given my salary with non-profit organization, which is $21 per hour. And it's kind of, I think I'm doing exactly 1/3 of my salary or more. I'm paying to be able to work as a therapist. What else? Yeah, so financial aspect, it affects me a lot. Therapy. Therapy is costly, so I'm going once a week to private therapy. And at work, it's also, when was it? Almost 2 years ago, I was going to start private practice, and I didn't receive the insurance. So they refused. And just thanks God I have a husband who is able to provide for me. But I don't know what I would do if I wouldn't have my husband. How would I survive and who would hire me? So this part is hard. Next. Well, I do think that at this point, being on probation with the terms prevent my professional growth, kind of like not being able to be a supervisor, and I think I can be a good one. I like my job, and being a teacher too, in addition. I think it deprived me from many professional opportunities, not just, having a private practice, but being, I'm very grateful to my agency but being able to pay them back, okay. And, well, what kind of, the biggest reason probably why I'm asking for termination of this probation, it's personal reason. Because at this point, sorry, it affects my family, not just me, but my family. And if you allow me, I will share just very briefly, last 3 instances when I was selected for testing. Again, on paper, it looks like it's doable, right? All this random testing, and I have been doing it for 2 years. In reality, it looks like every morning I wake up between 5 and 6 a.m. and check if I'm selected for testing. And if I am, because I work, and I'm a wife, and I'm a mother, and I have other responsibility, and I have life. So I need to plan. If I'm testing, if I'm selected for testing, it means I need to go before my first client, before I start job, before whatever I plan during the day. And I live in Bay Area. I live in Denville, near San Jose, and the list which I have from First Source Solution is not accurate at all. If you need more information, I will be happy to share with you. So there are some facilities which are listed there, they're not part of this program, and some of them do not do what listed as their services are listed. Some of them don't provide observed testing. Some of them just don't know. They're saying, what program? We don't know. So I had some situations like that, and it makes very difficult to be compliant with that condition. But over course of time, of course, I never missed a day. So I need to check every day. This is how I start my morning. Then if I'm selected for testing, I need to find time and insert it because, well, I don't know, live again in Bay Area, it's a distance, right? So driving to, driving back, being there. Most of the time the facilities which are part of emergency room or urgent care unit, so waiting there takes an hour, 45 minutes on average, just on average, even while they're doing their paperwork. And I want to pee. I'm sorry, but I do. It's not like, you come there and give them paper. No, you drive there to have a test, and you need to be ready. And then, I have this knowledge, it shouldn't be diluted, so you need to have something in you. And it's hard, physically. So this is almost the end of my speech, like last 3 days, how it works on practice. Consecutive dates when I was selected for testing. October 14th, it was when we had electrical outage, like no electricity. And so Monday, I checked in 5:05 a.m. and I learned I need to be tested. So as usually I went there. I had 8 hours working day full of clients and clinical meeting on Monday as usually, but because of some stoplights didn't work on the street, it took me about an hour to get to the place where I usually have testing instead of 20 minutes, And I came there and it was closed. It said urgent care unit was closed. I asked the gentleman to give me a note. He said, we can't, everything doesn't work, computers don't work. Can't give you a note, but it's possible we will reopen sometime in the afternoon. Okay, so I contacted my probation officer right away, let her know, took the picture of the door with this note, and I was very nervous because I want to do it right. So I came back to work. And then at 1:30 they called me from urgent care unit and I gave them my name. They said, yes, we reopened. Everything is back. So I needed to cancel, reschedule some of my clients, talk to supervisors again, and go there and had this test. Next date, it would be November 1st. It was Friday. Again, 5:06, I learned I selected to be tested. Well, sorry for this detail, but my husband had it was scheduled medical appointment, surgery procedure. So I was supposed, and I did. I took him to this procedure, and I thought, okay, while he's there, I can have test. But most of the time, life happens. So in this morning, our friend died, and his wife called us. And my husband, he's his friend, and he's a doctor, he's his patient. And my husband was sedated. So from this procedure, I don't know how I found time. I was just lucky that I was waiting less than an hour there. But it was a very difficult day for me. Yeah, I needed. My husband is Muslim, so the tradition to bury their dead people the same day. And I needed to drive him everywhere and think about this test. It was hard. And next one, just 3 out of my life, was Monday, November 11th. It was Veterans Day. And everything, half of the things closed. So when it closed, I go to Fremont. I live in Danville. It's 50 minutes drive without traffic. With traffic, it became 1.5 hours. Anyway, that just example. Not the most horrible time, just 3 consecutive dates. And during my first year, I completely understand. I'm a therapist myself, and we have to document recovery. I have client who are court ordered. But I believe, that my belief, that 2 years is good, reasonable enough time for somebody to document as a therapist. I just know it, to have documented sobriety. Well, I want to stop here, and hopefully I didn't sound defensive. I have mixed feelings. I took this DUI very seriously, and maybe what happened was part of it. Well, absolutely, I'm taking responsibility for that. I was wrong. Because of what happened, thanks God I didn't hurt nobody, and it wasn't actually a accurate description. The property wasn't hurt. I touched the mirror of the car when I took off, and my insurance even didn't pay anything. It was painting transfer from this car to my car. So it was practically no property damage involved, and I'm very grateful, that nobody's life was hurt, including my own, because I'm a mother. It was a shock for me. I'm kind of glad I had this DUI, maybe because of my cultural background. I'm from Russia. I came to this country when I was 30 years old. I never set this rule, what my son does right now. Now he's driving, and we talk with him about it. And that is very crucial, right? That's more important than anything. But speaking of my terms of probation, I'm considering to quit my job, kind of to leave profession. I think I have paid enough for my mistake this way. And again, I don't want that sound too defensive. I wanted to explain myself. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Palmer. I just want to make sure, before we get to questions for you, that we dealt with the documents that you submitted. I have a packet here that consists of various pages. The first two I have appear to be the court documents regarding the expungement of your conviction. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct.
All right. And then the third page is from FSS Solutions. These were the testing costs you referred to?
It's correct.
Okay, and then I have a letter from your probation analyst, Amanda Cantrell, dated September 24th, 2019. And next is a July 17th, 2018 letter, again from Amanda Cantrell.
Yes.
And then November 18th, 2019 letter from Mary Stein, LMFT.
Yes, it's clinical supervisor for the agency.
All
Correct.
right. And then November 18th, 2019 letter from Christine Dillman.
Yes, director of sexual assault services.
All right, and then I have a copy of a transcript that showed your grades for an intro chemical dependency class.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, and those were all the additional documents you wanted the board to consider.
Yes, the letters are updated.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to mark that packet, the additional evidence, as Exhibit 3. Is that correct, Ms. Cimentel? We're on 3, right?
Yes.
3. Okay, and do you have any objection, Ms. Cimentel?
No.
All right, so Exhibit 3 is admitted. And with that, then, I'll turn it over to Ms. Cimentel to ask some questions, and then for board members after that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Palmer.
Good morning.
You were placed on probation, board probation, on January 11th of 2018. Is that right?
Yes, for probation with the board, it's correct.
And you were placed on 5 years of probation?
4.
4 years of probation?
With the board, right?
Yes.
Yes.
If there are statutes in place that pertain to your license that do not allow you to request termination of your probation, would there be any modifications that you are seeking regarding your probation, such as those that you listed on the first page of your petition?
I don't understand.
On the first page of the petition that you submitted to the board, there were modifications that you listed. Elimination of the drug, alcohol testing, elimination of therapy, and to reduce the frequency of attending AA to once a week instead of twice a week. Are those modifications that you would be speaking if the board is not able to terminate your probation due to laws that are in place?
Yes.
Regarding the request to eliminate therapy if your probation is not terminated, why do you want to eliminate therapy?
I included, actually I forgot to include an updated letter from my therapist, current therapist, where she states, actually, she explains this reason that, and I would refer, if you don't mind, if it works this way, to the letter from my therapist, because she explained why. This is the entire letter explaining why.
So you want it eliminated based upon the recommendation of your therapist?
Yes, thank you for helping me to formulate that, yes.
Do you personally believe that you no longer need therapy?
Yes, I do.
Does this mean that you would stop attending therapy if this probation term is removed or your probation is terminated?
Well, it's possible, but I learned from being consistent for 2 years of therapy, it works, it helps. And I think I would, just like most of my clients, I will use therapy as needed. I think I'm able to make that determination that, yes, this is my point.
Do you have a sobriety date?
Yes, it's the date of DUI.
What date is that?
I don't remember, it's March 2015. I don't follow it religiously because this is the day before all that happened. I said myself, when I was in jail, that it's it. If drinking got me there, then I don't drink. I stopped. So, sorry, I don't remember the date.
When did you begin drinking alcohol?
Well, if it goes about my relationship with alcohol, you mean drinking like what? Try first time, or when it became like dysfunctional, or what is that? Can you specify your question, please?
You can answer both. When did you first start drinking alcohol, and then when do you believe that it became, in your words, dysfunctional?
Well, first of all, I have to say, well, maybe regardless how it all look at paper, but I don't have a pattern of drinking alcohol. And again, I'm in my clear mind, and maybe it's not good for me in front of the board, but it's not part of me which being defensive. I didn't drink alcohol in dysfunctional way, and that was an instance when I abuse alcohol. And yes, to me it's alcohol abuse, absolutely. And that one instance cost me a lot. I'm paying big price for that. My first drink I had probably at university at the age of, I don't know, 18, 19, 20, I don't remember, since I never had problems except this situation with drinking alcohol. And this is reflected again in the letters, and I have some personal letters from my husband, he knows me for 10 years, and from my colleagues from work. Yeah, so I would say it was alcohol abuse, one instance of it.
Prior to your driving under the influence arrest, what was the frequency in which you consumed alcohol?
About when I was a therapist and lived in Bay Area, before, let's put it this way, before 2011, I didn't use alcohol at all. And I know it sounds strange, but my first husband had bipolar disorder. He was taking medications and he couldn't drink. So when we married, and we were married for 13 years, I decided not to provoke him. So we were avoiding social situations with alcohol. So I didn't drink at all. And when, after divorce, I changed my job. I got a federal job. I needed it for security. And when I moved to Monterey, it's a big Russian community there. And I started to drink socially probably on weekends. Between the period of time of 2011 and 2015, I was drinking on weekends.
How much alcohol did you consume on weekends during that time period?
Usually I would say two to 3 glasses of wine.
During the whole weekend or on multiple days of the weekend?
No, I didn't drink during days, only on weekend.
So would you consider a weekend to be Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, even like Friday and Saturday more, before you need to go to work. My work was very intense.
Did you consume 2 to 3 glasses during the course of the entire weekend or
No.
on each day?
No, on each day. Mm-hmm. In the social setting, yes.
Do you consider yourself to be an alcoholic?
No, I don't.
You stated that you currently attend AA 2 times per week, is that right?
Yes, it's correct.
Are you working the steps?
I attend AA. I don't know what means working the steps, honestly. I just attend the groups and I provide my probation specialist with the list of dates when I attended. I found that meetings to be inspirational to a degree, but now it became kind of time-consuming. Can I add something? It's maybe seem not related to your question, but can I add something?
Yes.
Thank you. My current husband, like I mentioned, he's Muslim, he's a doctor, and I know him for 10 years. We were dating for 7 years prior marriage, and he doesn't drink. He just doesn't drink. He's 68 years old, and he's Muslim, doesn't believe in drinking. So I don't drink. And working through the steps, I don't know. I'm working through my own steps I set up for myself. This is the way how I see it.
During the AA meetings that you attend, do they talk about what's called the 12 steps?
Yes, they do.
Are you going through those 12 steps? Or are you going through...
Oh, I see. This is what you mean. Yes, of course, I'm thinking about it. Yes, I'm thinking how it relates to my life, not necessarily in a way related to alcohol consumption, but they are very kind of human-like. Yes, this way, yes, I am.
What steps have you completed?
I don't do it officially. I don't have like sponsor. I don't think I'm required. I am required to attend any 12 steps program. The way how it's stated on probation. So the way how my probation specialist explained me, and first I went to Al-Anon actually. But for some reason I like AA more. So I stick with AA.
And you said that you do not have a sponsor, is that correct?
Yes, it's correct.
If your probation is terminated, would you stop attending AA meetings?
Yes, I will.
Was the DUI where you were arrested the only time that you drove after consuming alcoholic beverages?
To this degree, yes. To how much I consumed alcohol, yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I stayed within legal limits. I have been doing it. Like my idea was 2 glasses. But what I noticed, I was thinking about many times and wrote in my essay for the class, I think my idea of 2 glasses of wine will kind of became skewed. That's true. You know, the size of the glass. Yes, I think I was doing it before.
How do you know that you drove within legal limits?
I didn't know. That's how I knew. I thought I could do it. That is how I had the UI. Only once and only. And now I know I can do it. I can drink any when I drive. I mean, yes, this was my choice.
You stated that your probation keeps you from being a clinical supervisor. Can you please explain why you believe you are safe to practice as a clinical supervisor?
Well, again, I think the letters will answer for that, right? I have 2 letters from clinical supervisor for the agency where she lists the reasons, and I have a letter from our director of counseling and sexual assault services. And I believe Mary Stein, right, clinical supervisor, she asked the board directly, to my knowledge, to remove probation with order for me to be able to be a clinical supervisor.
Since you submitted your petition, have you been convicted of any criminal offenses?
No.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Ms. Sementel. And now is an opportunity for the board members to ask some questions. I'll start with the furthest on the right, Ms. Wong.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you so much for explaining, how difficult it is to,
It was difficult, more difficult
yeah.
than I thought.
right, to be in compliance and all the drug testing and to meet the requirement. Just for some clarification first. So you talked about, your criminal probation. And when do you have a date that it ended? Or are you still on criminal probation?
No, on 31st, October 31st, they removed it and expunged it.
Okay, so it's been expunged. I just
Right.
And it's in October.
Yes, October 31st.
Okay.
Been expunged.
Okay. And so now, and you also talk about, so you're drinking. So I'm, when the, Ms. Sementel asked you about, when you first start drinking. So I'm not really hearing clearly when you first start drinking. So I am wondering, when you used to live in Russia. So did you drink when you were in Russia?
Yeah, like students, about 19, 20, I don't remember.
Okay.
I really don't. Like first drink, I was drinking occasionally, yes.
So were you drinking when you were in grade school? Were you drinking when you were in high school?
Oh, no, university, when I was at,
University, okay.
yes.
18 to 21. I'm so sorry that, because when you're talking to that side, I can barely hear you.
I don't
Okay.
remember the first instance, is what I'm saying. I never had consequences.
Okay. So that makes a difference, right? When you don't have the consequences, versus, you continue drinking, and you got into your DUI. I think, that's, what we're looking for really is about like the pattern of your alcohol usage, and we know that, it's because of the drinking that bring you in, on probation. So, really our point is to look at how much you have rehabilitated and how much understanding that your problem, is affecting your profession and also your clients. So now the other, just point of clarification. So you said that you know your husband for 10 years. And how long have you guys been married?
3 and a half
years.
by now.
So you guys got married after the
Yes.
DUI incident.
Yes.
All right.
And
So-
I have a letter from him, so I can, just one copy.
No, I just want to know the timeline. I
Yes,
just want.
yes, absolutely right,
Okay.
correct.
All right. Can you explain a little bit about, you do not believe that you're an alcoholic?
No, I don't. I know I'm not.
Okay. So can you explain a little bit more why you don't believe that you're an alcoholic?
Right, because I don't drink. Because I don't have, like what you say, in this pattern of drinking.
Okay.
I didn't drink like when I came to America. I came with Finansemi visa. I met my husband in Russia, and first husband, and we were writing back and forth for 3 years. Then I came here. We married right way, within 3 months before my visa expired. And I knew about his diagnosis. He had bipolar disorder, and he was on medications. And we just discussed together. We didn't drink. And when I started to drink like socially, this is this period of time after divorce, 2011, 2015. I was only time in my life, adult life, when I was like drinking. I didn't have, I never set up that rule what American kids do, drinking and driving. That I see clearly. That I know. But drinking itself, no, I'm not an alcoholic.
Okay. So when the incident happened, when the DUI happened, you had your juvenile son with you. And so what did you do to make up, for the, his whole witnessing, you being in custody and things like that?
I talked to him after. Well, I explained him, and I'm going back. It's not done, like you said. It's not over. I go back to it and explain and talk with him about it on different level as he gets older. And I apologize. Not every day, not making it more dramatic experience. And sometimes it can be in a joking way, but many times we have serious conversations, especially when he needs it. I'm trying to do it to see when he needs it, not me. I have my therapy, I have my resources, and yes, at certain time I noticed he had some resentment toward me, and I offered him to be in therapy. And what helps to me that my husband, like both of them, ex-husband and my husband, being very supportive of me, just for the same reason what I'm trying to present him, because they know me. They know I'm not alcoholic, and they talk to my son too, and I think it's more important for him to hear it not from me even, but from his stepfather and from his father. Yeah, but probably it's not over. I'm still dealing with it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Miss Anthony?
Thank you. So I heard you say multiple times
Right.
that you didn't want to do therapy or you don't want to continue with therapy. So I guess I want to know what self-care you're going to do outside of therapy. Like what other things are you currently doing and what's going to continue to happen if you didn't do therapy anymore?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm sorry if I came across like I want to do therapy. I'm able to enjoy time with my therapist. I was lucky. Well, I had two of them during this period of time. One had an accident and because of health issues resigned. And I think you have a letter from both of them, and both of them noticing I'm being compliant and forthcoming, and looks like I bonded with both of them. So it's not I hate therapy. No, I like therapy, but it's costly. That's first. Second, it's time consuming. And my son is going to college next year, and I plan some trips, and I can't really do it, without being for college, to check out certain colleges. And, sorry, I'm going far. What I will do my self-care plan. I think I have it kind of installed in my routine. In summer I do swimming, sport, usually physical exercise. But therapy I will take as needed. 2 years ongoing therapy, well, I don't do it with my clients. Need some kind of break and need to decide for yourself when you need therapy. Okay.
How often do you do swimming? How often are you doing sports?
Well, usually almost pretty much every day in summer. We have a pool and we have a gym at home, like small gym. Yeah. Right now my mom visits me, so occasionally like my pattern is being thrown off. But usually I do it, I'm trying to do it 5 or even 7 days a week. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Brew?
Hi, thanks for coming.
Hi.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding
Okay.
your perspective. And what it feels like to me is when you got divorced, you started partying with your friends.
Yes.
And you just started partying too much like an adolescent and didn't realize the drinking and driving piece. And now you have clarity about that. It wasn't like you were using alcohol to cope.
Yes, that's right. I use alcohol to cope. Not just alcohol. No, not alcohol. Socializing, my friend.
Yeah, socializing to cope.
But alcohol was a part of socializing.
Right, right.
Yes.
And it sounds to me like you don't want to drink anymore.
Yes, I don't.
Okay.
No.
All right. Thank you.
yes, after. No, this is the least thing what I want to do. You're welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for coming in. I just have a couple questions.
Okay.
You have mentioned that when you were in Monterey and you were socializing with your friends, that was a very stressful time for you. And my guess is that along with socializing, it was a way to sort of maybe relax and just sort of maybe escape some of the pressures that were going on in your life at the time?
I think yes.
Okay.
Good.
Could you help us better understand how therapy helped you make the connection between, okay, when I get stressed out, when life gets overwhelming, one, how can I make different choices other than use alcohol? Like, what are some things that you've learned that you can put into practice now?
Well, yes, but going back, I didn't drink by myself. I was drinking only with my friends. My job was very intense this way, and I started at 6 a.m. By 7, I need to be there, and I got to wake up around 5:30. It's a military school, and we even have, they count time by 99, 6:99. They're not saying like 7 a.m. They're saying 5:99. So it was no place for alcohol, only on weekend. Yes, but answering, I never really considered alcohol like solution for my, like coping skills, solution for my problems or way to unwind. I was more socializing part, and yes, it helped me to feel lighter and fit in, absolutely. What replaced it? Well, I think it's, this is what I do usually. I just came back to my previous routine. I always like swim, living with my first husband. I like to swim, I like to exercise, I like hiking, I like to walk. That's what I do.
Okay, thank you. Do you still hang out with a peer group now? Are there friends and other people that you still spend time with now? And
Well, my friends in Monterey, they're still my friends. Yes, I visit them often.
Okay.
But I don't drink. They do, I don't.
What keeps you from doing that?
Just all of that. Yeah, all the consequences. And I just, and my husband, because when we married, well, he knew I don't drink. Otherwise, like, how can he be with me?
Right.
But before we got officially married, yes, he said you wouldn't drink. It's kind of like, wow. I mean, what's the word? When you give somebody a word, you know.
Oh, you made
I
a
promised
promise.
him.
You made
Yeah,
a promise.
right.
Okay.
I think it holds me the most, probably. No, I mean, I don't want to drink. I don't think about it. I don't remember day of my sobriety, like day by day. I don't go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No more questions.
Thank you, and that was just for the record, Board Member Maddox. And now Ms. Connolly.
No questions. I think
Thank
we'll
you,
just defer to, or
All right. Thank you so much. Mr. Disposti, do you have any questions?
Thank you, public member Max Disposti. I really liked what you said at the very beginning, your sharing, and thank you for being here, sharing as well. We know that it's not easy, and so we appreciate you coming forward. There was one part that really, that you said that was really important to me. At a certain point, when you share with us the difficulties of probation that has to do with the testing and everything else, that at the end all of that you shared, it could have been worse because the outcome of my drinking could have affected someone else's lives, not just my own. So sometimes I felt like a little bit that was, it helped me a little bit because I didn't hear much of that because I know how hard probation could be. We hear it quite often, but it could have been really worse because the lack of judgment of driving could have caused someone's lives to be. So it happens every day. So a little bit, my colleagues ask you about your coping mechanism. How, in protecting the public, I would like to know a little bit more. How do we know? You say you're an alcoholic, and then you don't want to use therapy, even though it's not bad for you. But you say it's not.
No,
something
as
you like.
needed. I said, I believe. Right?
Okay.
As needed.
Of course.
Right.
And how do we know that that will not happen again? Besides the not drink, because obviously something brought you there. It could have been stress or anything else, but I would like to hear a little bit more about how do we protect the public in knowing that you're asking for a full removal of probation and there is nothing in place, not the 12-step programs, possibly no therapy, or other coping mechanism that you worked on. So I wanted to see if you could elaborate a little bit more on that, just briefly. If there is, besides this, you share with us you do sports and things like that, but something happened, obviously, right? That's why there was a probation, and the consequences are definitely harsh. So if you...
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think I probably missed this part because kind of skip it from my head. For myself, I have decided, again, before everything this happened, before criminal probation, before board probation, when I was in jail, it was very dramatic experience. And I said myself, no matter what, I'm not going to drink, just never ever again. So I just know I will not go there.
Okay. That's it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And then, Ms. Brown, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any.
All right, thank you so much. And let me just check with the petitioner. Do you have any other witnesses to present today?
No.
All right, and we've dealt with all the documents that you wanted to introduce.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. Ms. Siementhal, is there anything else?
I just have one question.
Sure.
Do you have any court documents showing that your DUI conviction was expunged?
No, I'm still waiting for that. It happened. I have one where it said probation is removed, but didn't removed. Right, terminated. It said terminated. I submitted that piece, but I'm still waiting. They're supposed to send me in the mail.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Then at this point, that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed. The case is submitted for decision, and we are off the record in this matter. Thank
Okay.
you very much, Ms. Palmer.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that we take a very short break, just reminding everyone that we're on a very tight schedule today. Thank you.
Okay, he's probably good by now.
All right, so we are back on the record at 10:36. Thank you very much. And once again, Judge, we are going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much. Are we on the record? Thank you. All right. We are going on to the next petition for reinstatement of license for Ruben Gabriel Colon. This is licensed clinical social worker, license number 29821, and OAH case number 2019100898. My name is Wim Van Rooyen. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings for the state of California that I've been assigned to preside over the matter today. Today is November 20th, 2019, and it's approximately 10:37 a.m. in Sacramento, California. Will all the board members please identify themselves for the record, starting with the board member on the furthest right?
Christina Wong, LCSW member.
Crystal Anthony, LCSW member.
Leah Brew, LPCC member.
Jonathan Maddox, MFT member.
Betty Connolly, LEP member.
Max Disposti, public member.
Deborah Brown, public member.
Thank you very much, and I do find that there's a quorum of the board present to hear the petition. May I please have an appearance from the Deputy Attorney General?
Good morning. Melissa C. Mantle, Deputy Attorney General.
Good morning, Ms. Seamantle. And for the petitioner?
My name is Ruben Gabriel Colon.
Good morning, Mr. Colon. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Yeah.
So Before the hearing, off the record, we discussed the proceeding today, and I explained that the Deputy Attorney General will first provide the board with introduce the petition packet and provide us with an orientation of the case. After that, you will have an opportunity to make a presentation on your own behalf explaining why you believe the petition should be granted. You have the right to call any witnesses on your behalf, in addition to your own testimony, as well as to present any additional documents you have. And those witnesses will be subjected to questioning by both Ms. Siementhal as well as the board members. The board is particularly concerned with rehabilitation and not so much relitigating the underlying discipline or misconduct. And I'll just remind you that the board has had the benefit of reading the petition packet, so it's not necessarily to repeat everything for the sake of time. It'd be helpful to just focus on aspects that you'd like to highlight for the court. For the board, and after the hearing is done, the board will go into a closed session to deliberate. You won't receive the decision today, but you will get a written decision in the mail at some point in the future. All right? Do you have any questions at this point in time?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. At this point, I'll turn it over to Ms. Siementhal to introduce the case and the petition packet.
Thank you. My name is Melissa Siementhal, Deputy Attorney General. I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. If I may approach with the exhibit packet.
You may. Thank you.
Previously, I have provided petitioner a copy of the packet, which I would ask to have marked as Exhibit 1. The packet contains the notice of hearing, certification of license history, the petition for a reinstatement with supporting documentation that includes criminal court documents, 2 letters of support, and a job evaluation from October of 2017, and also the default decision and order.
Thank you very much, Ms. Siementhal. Mr. Colon, do you have any objections to admission of Exhibit 1?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you. As a brief background, the board issued petitioner licensed clinical social worker license number LCSW 29821 on August 30th, 2013. On October 16th of 2015, the petitioner's license was revoked. On April 20th of 2015, an accusation was filed against petitioner in case number 2002015001233. The circumstances underlying the accusation are that petitioner was convicted of unlawfully causing a fire of property and being under the influence of a controlled substance. Also, petitioner used a controlled substance in a manner and to an extent that was dangerous or injurious to himself or the public, and petitioner failed to report his convictions to the board within 30 days. As disciplinary considerations, the accusation alleged that in 2014, respondent resisted officers when they attempted to take him into custody pursuant to Welfare and Institutions Code Section 5150, after petitioner called the police to report violence to his family that was taking place in his building, when in fact petitioner's family did not live there. And petitioner reported he cut himself on broken glass that he had to use as a weapon against people who were trying to kill him. During this incident, police found mushrooms being cultivated in petitioner's apartment. Additionally, in 2013, petitioner's wife reported to the police that petitioner told his wife that she was going to die. Petitioner failed to respond to the accusation, and a default decision and order became effective on October 16, 2015, in which petitioner's license was revoked. Because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements, but would reserve the right to question the petitioner.
Thank you very much, Ms. Siementhal. So, Mr. Colon, now is your opportunity to present your case. I'm assuming you'd like to testify on your own behalf?
Yes, I would.
All right, and let me just ask preliminarily, do you have any other witnesses here today to testify as well?
No, I don't.
All right, and do you have any additional documents not in the petition packet that you intend to?
I do have 2 documents.
All right, great, and we can take that up as you want to during your testimony. I just, did you want to have those distributed to the board members in the meantime?
Yes, please, Your Honor.
All right, so you can just hand that to the board staff there, and they can hand it out, and then we'll deal with it. We'll mark it for identification as they come up, okay? All right, so I'll have you stand, raise your right hand, and I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Please have a seat. You don't have an attorney to ask you questions, so please feel to testify freely about anything you believe is relevant. Again, just bear in mind the board has already reviewed the petition packet and has access to that, so you don't need to repeat everything, but you can certainly highlight whatever you feel is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I feel so much gratitude and appreciation for being able to be here today and present before the board in the request of reinstating my LCSW license. Ever since I was very young, I knew that I wanted to become a therapist. My uncle, who was a child welfare social worker, MSW from my same alma mater, San Jose State University, encouraged me. He said, consider being a social worker because you don't have to do like what I do in child welfare, even though I did do that for a little while. He says, you could become a therapist. And I really liked the idea. And I did so much, I feel, to get to the point where I was able to obtain my license. And then when I went through what I consider a midlife crisis, to me it seems like the whole appreciation and the emphasis of having been licensed, I kind of had lost that. It wasn't as important to me anymore because I had so many other pressing issues going on in my life at the time. I was going through a divorce, I was going through custody issues, work issues, and I really regret not doing more to try to maintain my license. But here I am today, and I feel that I've learned a lot through this process since my license was revoked, and I know the value, and I can definitely appreciate the process that I went through in obtaining my license, and I'd like to do whatever possible, whatever the board sets forth in conditions, so that I can prove to the people and the board that I am safe to practice. I've gone through a recovery process which makes me safe to practice. So I'm very eager to get back into clinical work. Maybe I wouldn't exactly go into clinical work right away because I recently got a job promotion. I really like my job. So I'm willing to answer any questions from the board about my recovery process, and I'm just so glad to be here today.
Thank you, Mr. Colon. And so I just want, I've been handed 2 additional documents as well as the other board members. The first is a personnel action form from San Andreas Regional Center with an effective date of October 1st, 2019. Can you explain the significance of this document?
That's correct, Your Honor. The significance of this document, if you look towards the right section there, it says the change of promotion. I was promoted to a new position, which is the proposed status towards the bottom says there, diversity specialist. So I've been a service coordinator at the San Andreas Regional Center ever since the whole incident happened. Right away, I was able to obtain employment, and I've been working there ever since. And October 1st, I started my new job as diversity and inclusion specialist, and I really enjoy my job, and I like what I do.
Thank you so much. And then the second, so I'm going to mark that one for identification as Exhibit 2, after the petition packet that was Exhibit 1. And then the last one is a November 18th, 2019 letter from Alma Rivera. And could you just briefly explain who Ms. Rivera is?
Miss Rivera is my ex-wife. As the counselor stated, in the report regarding the accusation, there was that statement about me having mentioned that someone was going to die, but she wrote this letter in support of me, trying to also give clarity to the incident that occurred. In particular, it states there that I would like to clarify that on 8/17/13, Ruben and I were in bed during the early morning hours. I had been woken up from my sleep because I could hear Ruben talking. At the time, Ruben and I were not having a conversation, and he thought I was asleep. At one point, I heard Ruben say, "You're going to die." When I heard him make that statement, I became anxious and asked Ruben what he meant. Ruben responded by telling me that it was nothing, never mind. It's not about you. Even though Ruben and I were not having any dialogue together when he said this, and we did not have eye contact, I personalized and internalized the statement towards myself. Ruben reassured me that his statement was not directed to me. However, it was difficult for me to refrain from thinking the statement was directed towards me. So in the next paragraph, it says how she had been going through different episodes in her life of anxiety and preoccupation with death, and how she personalized that statement when it was said. So I definitely regret that I may have caused that anxiety to her. But as the letter states here, is we were doing really well raising our children, maybe not together as a one family, but we're both on the same page, something that back then wasn't the case. So I'm glad that she was able to lend her support and provide the clarification, because we have our children's best interest together. She's very supportive of me and trying to get my license again. So I'm just very grateful to her for being there for me throughout this process.
All right, thank you so much for the clarification. So I've marked that letter from Ms. Rivera as Exhibit 3. And let me ask Ms. Siementhal, do you have any objections to either Exhibit 2 or 3?
No.
All right, then Exhibits 2 and 3 are admitted as well. And then I will turn it over back to Ms. Siementhal to ask you some questions, and after that, the board members may have questions as well.
Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What are your current job duties at San Andreas Regional Center?
My current job duties include looking over contracts regarding disparity proposals that different contract agencies are trying to obtain with the state. I also am in charge of organizing different conferences throughout our catchment area, from Palo Alto all the way down to past King City. So I tend to travel a lot. This past weekend on Saturday, I did a presentation at Stanford University on self-determination. And I also collaborate with different agencies that provide services to our consumers and families. And I also work with our direct staff. I work with the service coordinators and the managers, and how we can better address the disparities that occur in our regional center systems and promote inclusion. I don't know how many of you are aware, but there tends to be an underutilization of services, especially for certain ethnic groups, Spanish-speaking, Vietnamese-speaking, in my particular community. And in contrast to the amounts of services that are utilized by non-dominant ethnic groups. So there's great disparities, and my job is to try to address those disparities, not only within our own catchment area, but also statewide and at a macro level as well.
Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify that I don't do any clinical work in my position at this time.
Thank you. You are aware that a default decision and order was issued after you did not respond to the accusation in this matter, is that right?
That's correct.
Why did you not respond to the accusation?
I tried to respond to the accusation. I really regret not reporting it as I should have done 30 days, within the 30-day time frame. But I didn't respond because I was incarcerated at the time. And when I was released, I called the BBS and I spoke with whoever's at the front desk, and I mentioned that I wanted to renew my license. And the lady told me that I couldn't do that because there was an accusation filed against my license. And I asked, well, what can I do to address that? And I was told that I couldn't do anything, that I had to just read the accusation that was against me, and there was nothing that I could do. So I took it for word, and I think because I was still in the process of getting through that whole crisis that I went through, I didn't have the wherewithal and the mindset to be able to advocate for myself and really try to work through getting my license back. So I kind of just gave up, and I also wrote a letter to the board in December of 2015 because I wanted to see if there was anything more I can do. So I received a letter back stating that I had to wait 3 years in order for me to petition to receive my license again. So I waited. The time came, and I'm glad to be here today. But I did try. I just didn't have the wherewithal at the time to be able to advocate for myself.
You stated that you were not able to respond to the accusation that was filed on April 20th of 2015 because you were incarcerated. What time frame were you incarcerated?
I was incarcerated from about February 15th to about May 15th.
Of what year?
2015. And the reason I was incarcerated for that long is because I didn't show up to my court hearing. Again, I didn't have the wherewithal. I was in the process of trying to find a new place. I had gotten evicted, and my main focus was on survival, of trying to survive. And I didn't have any transportation. My family didn't know, so I didn't want to ask them and then find out that I had been arrested. So I didn't go to court. They put out a bench warrant for my arrest, and when they came to my house, I opened the door and they took me, and I spent almost 4 months in jail for not showing up to a court hearing. Another thing I'd like to add is the process was very difficult because when I went to the diversion court, the judge presiding over that court used to be my boss. I used to be part of a criminal justice program for about a year, and I was a therapist, an outpatient therapist, and I would come to the court and support my clients that I was working with, and there were colleagues that were shocked to see me at that side of the bench, and they couldn't believe it was me, and it was a very difficult process for me to go through that and just have my colleagues see me in that condition. But I recognize that I brought it upon myself. I made the decisions that led me to that situation, and I had to do whatever it took to recover from that.
Does your family now know of the circumstances of your arrest and the diversion that you went through?
Oh, yes, they do. Once they did find out, they supported me. They were present in court when I was incarcerated, and when I would go to my court hearings, my mom was there. My children don't know. To this day, they don't know. I've never explained that to them. They're aware that something happened, but they don't know all the details. But everyone else knows. My ex-wife knows.
Is there a reason why you haven't told your children? Is it due to their age or some other circumstances?
They were younger at the time. I've explained a little. I've gone into a little bit with my 18-year-old son, but not into detail. I haven't really disclosed too much with my other two younger children, who at the time were approximately 7 and 8 years old. I don't know if I'll ever let them know. I think it would have to be something purposeful in order for me to disclose that. It would have to be maybe something healing, or maybe in therapy. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't see how it could benefit them at this particular time.
Thank you. In your application, you state that you used controlled substances in October 2014 and on January 22nd of 2015. Are those the only time periods in which you had been using controlled substances?
No, I had been using them for approximately 7 months prior to January of 2015.
In 2013, according to the accusation, your wife reported to police that you used a certain type of mushroom. In 2013, your wife reported to police that you used a certain type of mushrooms that caused you to hallucinate. Can you please explain, well, first let me ask, in 2013, were you using a certain type of mushroom?
Yes, I was. The mushroom is a psilocybe mushroom. It's being used in different studies around the nation for depression, smoking cessation, end-of-life dilemma for cancer patients. So it's that same mushroom. For me, it was more of a religious practice because I practice more of a pre-Columbian spirituality religion, and in Mexico, it's an established religious practice that's gone on for thousands and thousands of years, and I would use it in ceremony. It was something that I didn't see as I'm going to go get high, rather that I'm going to go commune with my ancestors. I want to find direction in life. I want answers to maybe questions that are unanswered, and that was part of the dilemma. I mean, it seemed to be working pretty well for me in a spiritual aspect, but the mushrooms, which I also refer to as the medicine, took on its characteristics role as well in my life, because in old times and even presently, like in Mexico, these mushrooms are used as also a divinatory tool. So if someone has unanswered questions in their lives, or they want direction in their lives, they may pray to the mushroom, to the creator, and ask that the mushroom help them to find guidance in their lives. And for many years in my marriage, I had a lot of unanswered questions from my wife. And I had a lot of insecurities about certain questions. And during that time, my wife saw how the mushrooms actually helped me. I was developing spiritually, socially. Things were going well for me, and she wanted a part of that. And she said, "Well, give me some. Let me have some." And I didn't want her to take that, because I didn't think the intent was correct. To her, she was more curious about, well, if it's affecting him that way, well, why don't I try it? So one day, she actually drank my tea, and she had an experience where all of a sudden, I guess, she started wanting to tell me, or reveal things to me that she hadn't, and different truths came out, which ended up causing us to divorce, because there was information that I knew of, that I wanted to know of, that was then revealed to me by her. And of course I'd say, oh yeah, I wanted to know that all along, but really I think there's certain things, like when they say, do you want to know the truth? And I think when I got to know the truth, it was very hurtful. It was traumatizing. But I think if it wouldn't have been for that situation in which she drank the tea and had that experience, I don't think she would have come forth and provided me with the insight that she did. So in talking about this letter, and when she wrote it to me, she said it was a very healing process, because we had never talked about that night and that incident before that. And I think us talking about it and revisiting that situation was really a healing process for both of us.
The mushrooms that you've been speaking about, do you consider those to be a controlled substance?
They can be, if they're used in the wrong intent, if they're not used for spiritual, religious purposes. It could be something that could be very dangerous if it's not if there's not a controlled setting, if there's someone who has heart problems and they take that, or if they have a predisposition for severe mental illness such as bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. It's not an ideal thing for people to take that substance. But I don't know, calling it a controlled substance, I know that the government controls it still. Oakland has changed their view on it, as far as Denver as well. I mean, I think there's the people are starting to maybe change their minds about it, but in my life, I saw it more as a sacrament than a controlled substance. But I do see where if someone wants to go use it and go to a rave or a party or have a couple beers, then it becomes a controlled substance.
When you say that you were using controlled substances for approximately 7 months prior to January of 2015, Are you referring to the use of these mushrooms or other substances?
No. Like I mentioned, since I don't consider it a controlled substance, I didn't include that time period. When I mentioned the controlled substances, I'm particularly referring to the stimulant, which was described in the report. In the report, it says that I mentioned to the police that I took MDMA and then methamphetamine, but both were the same. I mean, I wasn't aware that I was doing one or the other. When I was hospitalized, in the paperwork that I got back, it said that I had come up positive for MDMA. And that was a shock to me because I didn't know that it was MDMA. I thought it was an amphetamine, but MDMA isn't, I guess, related to an amphetamine. But it was one and the same substance. I still don't know exactly what it was, and I think that's a scary part too. We hear a lot about how fentanyl has kind of gotten into different drugs, and it kills people. So I really think I put myself at risk for doing something that I had no idea what could have been in there. It could have harmed me even more, and it did harm me a lot because when I would do it, it was only a couple days that I would do it on the weekend, but the side effects would last much longer. And I think I put my body and mind through a lot of stress when I did that. And I believe that I was affected for a while when I did it. The symptoms didn't go away right away. The side effects didn't go right away. It impacted my brain. And it took a while for me to, I think, finally have all those residual side effects go away.
To clarify, did you believe that you were taking methamphetamine and not MDMA?
Yes, I would rather say that it was MDMA because I think that there's a more negative connotation when you hear methamphetamine. I mean, I hear MDMA and it's being used to treat veterans for PTSD and things like that. But whatever it was a controlled substance. I had no business using it. I put myself in danger, and it really affected me. I never thought that I would fall into that situation. And there's a story that I would tell children in therapy. It's a Native American story that I tell, and I apply it so much. And it's a story about a young Indian boy who went up to the mountain to seek a vision. What was his vision quest going to be? What are you going to do in life? What's going to be your purpose? And he went up there, and the warriors brought him to the mountain, and they set him on the top, and they said, okay, you stay here 3 days, and you're going to get your vision. And you don't come down until, you have that vision. So the young warrior thought the first night he was going to get his vision, and no, he didn't have the vision. Second night, neither. And the third night, he had a vision that he was going to be a helper of his people. And he saw himself with children parading behind him because he was a true warrior, someone who helped his community, not in an aggressive sense. So right away, the young warrior raced down the mountain because he was so excited to get back to his village and tell all the people about his vision that he had. But on his way, he saw a snake, and the snake said, hey, please help me over here. I'm going to die. It's so cold up in this mountain. If you don't bring me down to the valley, I'm going to die up here. And the young warrior thought, I'm not going to do that. You're dangerous. You're poisonous. I'm not going to even touch you. I'm out of here. And the serpent didn't give up and said, please, I know you're a good guy and you're going to help a lot of people and your vision was awesome. Start with me, help me. So the warrior thought about it. It kind of made sense to him for a minute there, and he thought, okay, but I'm only going to get a stick and I'm going to carry you. So he said, okay, and he carried him for a distance with the stick, and all of a sudden the snake said, it's still cold. I think I'm going to die. You bring me closer to your body. So the young warrior, he was reluctant, but little by little, he said, okay. And then after a while, the serpent said, wrap me around your waist, because we're almost there, but I'm still cold, and we're going to make it. So the young warrior felt comfortable already in that situation and did as the serpent said. And right as they got to the village, you could hear the people cheering and everything that he came back. And as he put the snake down and was about to walk away, bam! The snake bit him. And the warrior was surprised. Why did you do that? You said you weren't going to harm me. And then the snake said, well, you knew I was poisonous. You knew I could bite. And now you're going to die. And that young warrior, unfortunately, died there. And he never made his vision. And I used to tell that story to different, kids and young people who were in gangs, who were faced with drugs. And I couldn't believe it, that it happened to me. Little by little, I thought and I rationalized, oh, it's just a weekend. Oh, it's okay. I mean, nothing happened the first time or the second time. It was okay. It was kind of fun. And then little by little, I became more comfortable with something that I knew was bad for me. And eventually, I suffered from the poison that it really was. So I apply those lessons learned to my life, and I think that in one way or another, they may be useful in the future in relating with clients that I might have in the future. But I'm very remorseful and sad that I had to go through all that. But as a person who believes in the traditional ways, I know that there's that dual essence in life. We have male, female, hot, cold, good, bad. I mean, I've been a person who has excelled academically. I've had a lot of different successes in my life. And when I had a negative thing come into my life, it was very difficult. But I have to recognize that in my life, there could exist both. And I can't beat myself up and not get up and move forward because something negative happened in my life. I know that there's going to be both positive and negative, and I'm more aware now of what I need to do when those things come to my life and I'm faced with those dilemmas.
Do you drink alcohol?
No, I don't.
Do you continue to use any substances, whether legally considered to be a controlled substance or not, that would place you into a mind-altering state?
I use a tincture at night to help me sleep and with back pain. It's a cannabis tincture. I guess it could be mind-altering because it has the substance THC in it. But other than that, I don't drink alcohol or do any other drugs.
If the board were to consider reinstating your license, but with probation conditions, would you be able to refrain from the use of that substance?
Yes, if that was a condition that the board placed on me, I would refrain from that, if that was requested from me.
Do you attend any AA or NA meetings?
No, I don't attend any NA or AA meetings, but I do belong to a Red Road sobriety support group, which consists of Sweat Lodge. Every week I attend what we call generically Aztec dance ceremony. So every Wednesday today, on a consistent basis, for the past 24 years. Well, there was a gap. When I went through this whole process, I stopped my spiritual practice and my cultural practices. And I think that's what really put me in a vulnerable situation. But I do, that's kind of my, what would be like an AA, because there's a commitment to sobriety. We have people, we don't call them sponsors, but we're accountable to our elders. There's different people who are considered leaders in our group, and I've often invited them to hold me accountable if they see me going off to a wrong path, or if they notice something kind of off in me, and they've known me for 24 years, they'll let me know. And during this whole time, they reached out to me. They came to my house. They knocked on my door, and I didn't let them in because I didn't want them to see me in that condition. But I do have a lot of support through my group. There's a letter also in the packet from the leader of the group, and it spells out a little bit more about what I do in danza and how I help the community, how I'm involved in music. And this past Saturday, I also went to a Native American powwow, which is no drugs or alcohol allowed. So I keep my time busy in activities that promote sobriety as well. But I don't attend AA or.
You state in your petition that you practice, quote, strategies of recovery and wellness during your daily routine. What are these strategies for recovery and wellness that you practice?
Well, I exercise and I watch my diet. I exercise on my lunch break. That way I have no excuse that, oh, I'm tired, I'm gonna go home, because I think I'm more consistent when I work out on my lunch. I enjoy cooking and eating. I took up mountain biking again ever since my youth. I've loved being in nature, and riding mountain bikes helps me to not only get my exercise in, but also be out in nature and have that connection. I recently spent $2,500 on a new guitar, a Taylor guitar, and music has been a healing tool for me for so many years, since I was a teenager. I am also a ceramic artist. I make Aztec Mayan type flutes. I've also used them in my therapy practice as well, with guided imagery. So it's something that I also relate to my clinical work. I've also used ceramics in some sessions with some children. And the instruments that I make, I play them in ceremony. And I'm well known. That's kind of my niche in my group, is they know me as the musician for the group. When I did go to church in my youth, I was also the worship director for about 10 years. So music has been a very important part of my life, and it's one of those self-care tools that I use on a daily basis.
When you say that you use these as tools in therapy with children, during what time frame are you speaking about where you were working with children?
I was working with children right before I took a leave of absence. I took a leave of absence because of everything I was going through. And when all this happened, I wasn't working at the time, because I knew that I wasn't taking care of the therapy tool, which is myself. So when I graduated from graduate school back in 2006, I worked for an outpatient clinic for about 6 months with adults, and then from there I got hired on to the Boys and Girls Ranch juvenile justice system. So since 2007, I was working with children, and there were some gaps in between there where I went to work with adults at a criminal justice program. But most of my experiences with children and youth and families. So I would say probably 2006 to about 2014, with maybe a year gap in between.
Do you have a relapse prevention plan?
My relapse prevention plan is that I stay connected on my spiritual path as far as the Red Road to Recovery. I go to my Aztec dance group religiously. I stay connected with my people who support me in my life, my parents, my wife, my colleagues and friends. I don't put myself in any situation in which, bless you, where I think I can be vulnerable or at risk of relapse. I don't associate with anyone who I associated with when I was using. So I'm very conscientious about not putting myself in any predicament or danger.
Do you currently attend any therapy?
No, I don't attend therapy right now.
Why not?
I feel that I've been able to work through my wellness and recovery in the ways that I have since I've been very young. I've considered it, but I think that using the different strategies that are not therapy have worked for me. I'm not against going to therapy, and I'm open to it. It's just that I don't feel that therapy has been something that has been absolutely necessary for my recovery, although I think it could have been helpful if I would have done it.
If the board reinstates your license, how can you assure the board that you are safe to practice?
I can assure the board that I'm safe to practice by doing whatever check-ins necessary. If it meant being monitored in therapy and having reports back to the board about how I'm doing, I'm open to that. I'm open to whatever suggestions the board might have in order for me to assure them that I'm maintaining my recovery and I'm in a good place. So pretty much whatever it takes.
Since you submitted your application or petition, have you been convicted of any criminal offenses?
No, I haven't.
I have no further questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Siementel. Time for the board members to ask some questions, starting with Ms. Wong. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for coming in and give a really good detailed account for the reason why you want to have your license reinstated. I have just some clarifying questions.
Sure.
So when did you start using meth? I mean, you might have said that. I might have missed it. So
It was, I believe, in the summer of 2014, I'd say about June
okay.
2014.
Okay. So what led you to use meth? You had your license at that time.
Right.
You were licensed.
I had my license. I wasn't working because I was going through that midlife crisis. There was a lot of stress that I was going through, and it was affecting my attendance. So I took an absence.
I guess my question is, like, why particularly meth?
Right. Well, I was introduced to it after I separated from my wife. I started seeing someone, and they introduced it to me as like a sexual enhancement. And for me, that's kind of what I saw it as. I think that for most of my life, I've pretty much repressed myself throughout my youth and young adulthood sexually. So for me, it was like, boom, like the Niagara Falls of sexuality. It was like overwhelming. But I think that that was more the allure. I didn't seek it out. It was presented to me, kind of like in the way the story said, oh, you know, I do it, it's just not going to affect you. And even though I've always told myself, don't ever touch that, because I've seen how lives have been ruined. How am I going to go touch something that I know has ruined lives? So I think it took someone who, in a way, I confided in to be able to present it in a non-threatening way. But I made that mistake of not going by what I know and I should have done, and I made that mistake.
So meth really served a purpose at that time?
At the time, in a way, yes, because it opened up kind of doors of my sexuality that I
And
didn't
some
know existed.
other, issues that probably, belong to your past that you have never dealt with.
Right, and a lot of times with my friend and I, it was more about, it wasn't only just a sexual thing, it was having long conversations about deep issues and just, talking. It was more of a processing.
Right. So now, since you talk about, something, I don't want to dive in too much about your personal issues,
That's
but at the
fine.
same time, I'm glad that you brought it up that, because it fit, it fits as a kind of like a cover up or cure, or a getaway, from the stressors that you're dealing with, but at the same time open up, some of the past issues that you have never dealt with. So now I want to go back to, your opinion about individual therapy. So, so have you thought about, that maybe using some other, like the individual therapy to really deal with those issues, instead of, I know you're open to it, but you haven't really been doing this. So I'm just wondering, whether you feel like that you might be another
right.
way to, to help you be
Yeah.
a better mechanism,
Yeah.
when you have your license.
I think that's why I see the benefit in it, because, like I mentioned, when I spoke to my ex-wife about the letter, we processed it. It was a very healing process, but it wasn't facilitated in therapy. I think there's a lot of issues like what happened with that incident and the separation from my children at the time, the whole incarceration thing, the whole feeling of powerlessness and shame about having lost my license and losing face with my family. I think that if I were to process those things in therapy, in individual therapy, it may help my practice in the long term, because there may be roots there that I haven't quite addressed that need to be addressed.
Sounds like you're talking yourself into doing therapy now.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Anthony?
Mine's just a couple comments. I'm listening to all the things you're saying, and I hear a lot of like holistic mental health services that you're a part of. But I want to ask a little bit more about the therapy. And the only reason I say this is holistic wellness is like a beautiful thing, and it's something that is truly like, I think it's part of rehabilitation and utilized as a coping skill. But do you believe that therapy is something that, even if you didn't do this, like, is that something that you would do on your own?
That's a good question. I did attend 2 sessions, and I found it very helpful back when I was going through the crisis. I regret not having continued, because I thought everything was, okay, I'm good now. But I have to honestly say, unless I found someone who I would say, yes, this is an ideal therapist for me, I don't think I would have sought it out on my own, because I think one of my reservations is, okay, will I be able to connect with a therapist? So
Because there's a lot, and I don't even know if I'm allowed, I don't even know, but there's a lot of wellness therapists that truly probably can connect on
Right.
that spiritual side of it,
Right.
that are practicing therapists.
Right. I
And
know.
so maybe searching for that, but I'm not here to give you that. I
Psychedelic
asked that.
integration.
Yeah, because I do see that you have tried, like you are trying things that are beneficial to you. I guess I want to know how you view it as importance in your life.
Well, I think that my view is that if I don't meet medical necessity, then I probably won't initiate it on my own. When I did initiate those 2 sessions with my Kaiser therapist, I think I did meet medical necessity, and that's why I sought it out. But I didn't have the insight enough to know that I wasn't done. But even though at this time I don't think I would meet medical necessity, I don't think it's necessary to be at that level of need for me to benefit from it. So I think there's a lot I can learn. And I know that MFTs, they have to go through therapy as part of their requisites. And LCSWs, we don't have that condition. So I wonder, wow, maybe there's a reason for that condition being there. Maybe I could benefit from it. So I see it in that light too. Some practitioners have to do it.
Thank you.
Ms. Brew?
Thanks. Yeah, actually, MFTs aren't required
No?
to do it. No.
Okay.
But if they come from a good program, they're strongly encouraged in some programs and required in others. Yeah, so it's not the license, it's the program. I just want to make a comment that your pattern, partly out of your tradition, is to use substances to further your growth when you're feeling stuck.
Not necessarily stuck. You can be on the top of.
I'm not saying just for being stuck, but when you get stuck, that's what I'm hearing with
Yes.
the meth example, right? And then the use of medical marijuana for sleeping. So that's been your
Yeah.
pattern, and for those pieces. Not that every time you use something is for that.
Right.
I understand the spiritual piece too, and I don't want to separate from
Yeah.
that. I think this is why my colleagues are talking about therapy as a new opportunity for you, particularly if you find someone, and I know lots of people who resonate with your same spiritual background and are therapists. I think that if you can find someone who does that, then you'll find a whole new world which will positively impact not only your life, but also your work with clients should you get your license back.
That's very motivating to hear. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Mr. Maddox?
Good morning. How are you? Want to thank you for coming in today, and I really want to affirm sort of what I've been hearing with you about your commitment to your spiritual and cultural practices. It's important to me that we sort of have a broad lens about how we view what health and healing and wholeness looks like, and so I really appreciate sort of your commitment to the activities and processes that are a strong part of who you are and sort of where you've come from. So I definitely want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about what accountability looks like. You have described a lot of things that you are doing that seem to be driven out of your own sort of commitment to be healthy and whole. But there can come certain circumstances in life that may, even though we have the best intentions, drive us off of our own sort of commitments. And so I'd like to hear a little bit more. You mentioned earlier that as a part of your commitment to your practice with the Sweat Lodge, that there are elders that you are committed to. Is there a particular elder with whom you are transparent and accountable to, so that if things get tough, they have permission to speak into your life and ask you questions. And the reason why I ask is, you mentioned earlier that I think you stated in 2014 when you started using, you were able to hide from the elders. And so, when we're struggling and we start hiding, that opens doors for a whole range of other problems. So I'm wondering sort of what your sort of quote sponsor, if we're
There is a particular person, there's a few, but they're the elder in particular that holds me accountable, and I encourage him to try to be aware of when I might be on the wrong path. His name is Techicuautli in our native language, Ray Baeza. He was a union organizer. Before he retired, he worked in the mental health department of the county where I worked as well. He's also half Puerto Rican like myself and half Hawaiian. So I identify with him also culturally. I've known him ever since I started on this path when I was 19 years old. So he knows me. It's not like, he's not going to know if I'm not caring for myself. He's one of the ones that came to my house. He didn't knock on the door. He came to the back patio and walked in. So I couldn't not let him in. He came in and he was concerned for me and he expressed himself. But at the same time, he never forced the help upon me. I think that's kind of more of a native way, is that people still have the choice. But I reminded him about a year ago about what I went through. And in a sweat lodge, I told him, please, Techicuautli, if you see me going down that same path or any concerns you might have, please let me know. Call it to my attention. I give you permission. And he agreed that he would do that.
Okay, so it sounds like he's fully aware of all the different incidents that occurred, the 3 that we know of that are...
He is. There's a few other people too, but the leader of the group and a few other people who are around my age, but I don't consider them like elders.
Mm-hmm.
Still people who I could go to, but the person who I see and particularly who I'm accountable to is my elder, Techicuautli.
Okay. I'm also wondering sort of how you have thought through and sort of how you plan to manage. So the board, when we typically, if your license would be instated, you would be given a series of probation terms that are sort of Western medicine focused. You'd go to therapy, you'd go to A, you may have to go to A. I mean, there might be a range of things that you have to do that may contradict or be distinctively different from your spiritual and cultural sort of values. And I'm wondering, have you thought through the impact of having to do that and sort of
I have.
where they collide, where they
have.
may integrate well?
I have.
So can you speak to that, please? Because that's what would happen
Sure.
if that happens for you.
I think I have good experience in dealing with those colliding, opposing beliefs and forces. I was raised since my childhood in a Protestant Pentecostal church environment. Mm-hmm. And when I started going into the paths of my ancestors, even my own grandmother said, "What are you doing over there with those Indians?" Her looking very Indian, right? Why are you over there with those Indians? There's nothing that's not of God, and things like that. So, in a way, I would hide my cultural participation in dance from my church members. They didn't know, and I didn't want them to know, because if they knew, they would say, "Well, you're dancing with the devil," mm-hmm. right? So, and at the same time, I didn't tell anyone from my dance group that I was going to church.
Sure.
Because then they say, "You're with the invaders. You're with, the evil." So many years I had to balance and manage through that whole conflict. but there's something that I tend to do. I say I don't mix medicine. I don't go to church with my feathers and outfit on, and I don't go preach at a ceremony or lead worship music there either. I mean, in some traditions, like in the mushroom traditions in Oaxaca, they do use the Catholicism and the pre-Columbian culture as well. I don't do that. I could definitely see myself, for instance, doing some of those Western, traditionally Western methods of recovery in conjunction with cultural traditions as well. I've been doing it ever since I started. It's been a difficult process, but I have experience in navigating those two opposing forces.
Okay. And I guess I'm hearing again that word hiding. You mentioned that you hid when you were younger. Is it related to your religious practices, but sort of this internal draw towards something that's more spiritual and culturally focused? So I'm wondering, could you, and I guess I didn't hear it very well, I'm wondering how you're going to refrain from hiding if you have to do this, because it seems like, and I'm wondering if hiding is a precursor to you having to cope in ways that are not very healthy. And so what would that look like now for you?
Well, I think I have to recognize that gradually there's this notion of historical trauma that is being more validated in our field. And when you have, in the past, you know, whether it be a religious organization or a government organization questioning someone, do you speak your native language? Do you practice your religious beliefs when you could be killed for that? I think that there may be some hiding because there's a historical reaction to that. That my people have had to hide their traditions for many, many years, and we still do. So it's difficult for me to talk openly about this, but I feel the need to be as transparent as I can with the board. That way, the board and myself can work together to ensure that if I am granted the reinstatement of my license, that everyone feels that safe and secure in my abilities.
Sure. No, I just want to thank you for your answers. I perceive you to be a very sincere, I don't want to say repentance, but sort of you have rehabilitated yourself in ways that are admirable. And I guess my final thought would be, it sounds like, and I'm for lack of a better metaphor, say beat the drum around therapy, because that might be a skill that you could sort of actuate in therapy. It's like, how do I incorporate a holistic picture of myself and then live that out in ways that sort of allow me to still hold my values. So thank you for coming, and I don't have any more questions.
Thank you. Madam President, do you have any questions?
So I would like to thank you as well. And my fellow board members have, I think, articulated most of my questions, and you've done a really nice job of responding. When you went through that crisis and kind of went down that rabbit hole, you said you didn't answer the door, and you really didn't respond. And it feels to me like you're in a different place now. Would you agree with that?
Definitely.
That you feel like you would be more inclined to respond and
Right. I think another person that I hid from was my mom. Why? Because the way she raised me, I'm very grateful for, and I didn't want to devastate her with me letting her down. But I don't hide from her anymore. She provided a lot of support to me during the process. And I realized that I have no reason to hide from my family, especially. They're there to support me. Or my friends, my circle of support, my dance group. They're there to support me.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Disposti, any questions?
I just would like to add to it. So no question from me, I just wanted to thank you for sharing with us even your more introspective work. It was definitely a pleasure to hear how you got to today. So I really appreciate your time in coming here for that. It was admirable for me to see this the challenge of balancing culture and experiences and backgrounds and traditional approaches versus a more spiritual one, and how they can actually, it's a dance, right? And so I appreciate that opportunity to listen to it. So I thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Desposti.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Oh, yeah, we have only one.
Oh, you have to share. There you go.
Budget thing.
It's fine.
It's expensive mics.
Yeah, I said that already.
I have a logistical question, and perhaps I can't find it in the paperwork. And that is, when you were held in contempt of court for failure to appear,
Yes.
did they charge you with a misdemeanor for that?
No.
Okay, so it was just, what did they do? I mean, what was it called?
It was called failed to appear.
And so what, and then they incarcerated you?
Right.
Okay, so now I have another logistical question, and this would go to probably a staff member. If this is the case and it's not a misdemeanor, there's no, where I can't see Kim back there.
She's there.
Okay. And there is no, it's resolved without a conviction. Is that what you're saying was?
No, I was originally incarcerated for 2 weeks, then released.
Okay, so it was resolved without conviction. You were not charged in a misdemeanor for for failure to appear.
No, the failure to appear, I wasn't charged for that.
Okay, I wanted to clear that up. And then my next question to Kim is, if that is the case, do our licensees have to report to the board that they were incarcerated?
Question.
I'd have to
don't
look at the details of his situation, but typically what happens is anytime anyone is arrested, because we have the fingerprints, we get notification from the Department of Justice of that arrest. We get subsequent notices following that about any type of court activity. So I'm not familiar intimately with the details of his case, but we could not have moved forward without a conviction at this point in time, I think.
I have the original court document of when my charges were dismissed.
Yeah,
But my charges were eventually dismissed once I graduated from the diversion program.
okay, so he had a deferred entry of judgment,
Okay.
which allows you to complete a program, and upon successful completion of the program, the charges are either reduced or dismissed. So with that information, I would suspect that our action was based on the conduct and the actions that led to the initial arrest and court actions, which were subsequently dismissed.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
All right. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Colon?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you so much, Ms. Siementhal.
If I might ask a few questions that might hopefully clarify the criminal process.
Sure.
During the criminal process, or the criminal case, you were arrested in 2014, is that correct?
2015.
2015. And talking about the very original arrest, that was in 2015?
Yes.
Okay. And then when you were originally arrested, did you spend a brief period of time in custody?
I did.
Then you were released, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. After you were released, were you then given another court date to appear?
Yes, I was given another court date.
At some point for one of those court dates, did you not appear in court?
I didn't appear for that first court date.
And then after that first court date or during that first court date, is it your understanding that the judge issued a bench warrant for your arrest?
That's correct.
And was that bench warrant to ensure that you would then appear for any subsequent court appearances?
Yes.
And based on the fact that the bench warrant was issued and you were arrested, did you remain in custody to ensure that you appeared for your other court appearances?
That's correct.
And a failure to appear was not added to the original charges that dealt with the use of the controlled substances?
No further charges were made about the failure to appear.
And at what point were you released? Was that after you pled to the charges, or was that before?
The first time or the second time I was incarcerated?
The second time after the failure to appear?
I was released after about 4.5 months. They saw that I guess I was ready to be released, and I had kind of gone through that process of discipline. But when I was released, I was still held responsible to continue the diversion program. So it didn't change anything. I wasn't off the hook, or I didn't complete time in place of no longer having to do the program. I still had to do the program.
When you were released, this is after the failure to appear, were you released upon your agreement to enter the diversion program?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Thank you so much for the clarifying questions. Anything else, just for the sake of completion? Do we cover everything? We got all your exhibits admitted and no other witnesses?
Yes, I have nothing else.
All right, thanks so much. All right, then, that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed, the case is submitted for decision, and we're off the record in this matter.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. And just pick up your sheet from the... Oh, I've never had that. You're the first board to...
All right, we are ready to get back on the record. Hopefully Caesar's ready back there. So it is 12:02. We will hear the next petitioner, and then we will take a very brief break for us to go grab our lunch at the cafe and come back and probably eat and listen at the same time. So, Judge?
Thank you very much. There, my microphone's on right now. Are we on the record? All right. All right. We're on the record before the Board of Behavioral Sciences, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California, and we're moving on to the next petition, which, as I explained earlier on, is not the next one printed on the calendar. It's actually our last one on the calendar to accommodate a scheduling conflict. That is the petition for early termination of probation of Edana Eugenia McGee. And Ms. McGee, you could come on forward and have a seat at the table. That is ASW license number 74184 and OAH case number 2019100901. My name is Wim Van Rooyen. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, State of California, that's been assigned to preside over this matter. Today is November 20th, 2019. It's approximately 12:03 p.m. in the afternoon, and we're in Sacramento, California. Will all members of the board please identify themselves for the record, starting with the board member on the furthest right?
Christina Wong, LCSW, member.
Crystal Anthony, LCSW member.
Leah Brew, LPCC member.
Jonathan Maddox, MFT member.
Betty Connolly, LEP member.
Max Disposti, public member.
Deborah Brown, public member.
Thank you very much. I do find that a quorum of the board is present for purposes of this petition hearing. May I please have an appearance by the Deputy Attorney General?
Good afternoon, Melissa C. Mantle, Deputy Attorney General.
And good afternoon, Ms. Seamantel. And then on behalf of the petitioner.
Edana McGee.
And good afternoon, Ms. McGee. So before we went on the record, I explained the procedures in this matter, that the Deputy Attorney General will proceed first to provide an overview of the case as well as to introduce your petition packet. After that, you will have an opportunity under oath to provide a presentation as to why you believe your petition should be granted. You have the right to testify on your own behalf. You also have the right to have other witnesses testify and to introduce any additional documents you may have. And your witnesses would be subject to questioning by both Ms. Seemantel as well as the individual board members. And again, mainly the board is concerned with rehabilitation, not relitigating the underlying misconduct or discipline. I'll just remind you that the board has had the benefit of reviewing your petition package, so you can just highlight the portions that you believe are most important. There's no need to repeat everything. You won't receive a decision today. After the hearing, we will go into a closed session, or rather at the very end of all the petitions, and the board will deliberate, and then I will prepare a written decision, which you will receive at some point in the mail later on. Do you have any questions at this point in time?
When you say some point,
Well,
sometime in the future,
there's usually a reason why judges are vague, and it's because it's a little up in the air. Basically, to let you know, I always present the written decision to the board within 30 days of the hearing today, but they're a busy board off doing lots of different things, and so they have to all get together and agree that they agree on the decision I drafted, and it has to be signed by the board president. So it sometimes takes a couple of weeks beyond then to get it finalized, but I will get the written decision to them within 30 days. That's the only part I have control over.
okay.
All right?
Thank you.
So I hope that answers your question somewhat. Any other questions before we proceed?
I don't think so.
All right, thanks so much. Then I'll turn it over to Ms. Seemantel to present the case.
Thank you. My name is Melissa Seamantle, Deputy Attorney General. I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I am here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I am here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. If I may approach with the exhibit packets.
You may, thank you. Thank you.
And a copy has been previously provided to petitioner. What is included in the first petition packet that I would request to be marked as Exhibit 1 is the notice of hearing, the certification of license history, the petition for modification of, petition for early termination with supporting documentation, including 11 letters of support, and the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order. What I would ask to have marked as Exhibit 2 contains the psychological evaluation and psychotherapy quarterly reports, which I would ask to have a protective order.
All right, and I believe I also received the copy of the proposed protective order from you, is that correct?
Yes, in a somewhat partially completed
Exactly, okay.
form.
Okay, great. First, before we deal with the protective order, do you have any objections other than the confidentiality issues with the protective order as to either Exhibit 1 or 2?
No, I do not.
All right, great. So I have, Exhibit 1 will be admitted. Exhibit 2 is the psychological evaluation results, and that's the subject of the proposed protective order. I have reviewed it, and I believe it qualifies for protection because it involves confidential medical and psychological information. So I will sign the protective order sealing the Exhibit 2, the psychological evaluation and reports, and that will not be available for public disclosure. So I'm signing that right now on the record, and then you will also get a copy of this served on you in the mail as well as on the Attorney General's office. All right? Thank you so much. And then with that, Exhibit 2 is admitted as well.
Thank you. For a brief background, the board issued petitioner Associate Clinical Social Worker Registration Number ASW 74184 on October 26, 2016. The license expires on October 30th of 2020. The license is on probation until October 26th, 2021. On April 12, 2016, a statement of issues was filed against petitioner in case number 200-2016-000040. The circumstances underlying the statement of issues are that petitioner was convicted in 2013 for grand theft, committed acts involving dishonesty, and committed acts evidencing potential unfitness to perform the functions authorized by her registration. The circumstances are that from August 1st of 2008 to March 31st of 2009, petitioners stole $10,168 in child care funds. Pursuant to a stipulated settlement, petitioner's registration was granted and immediately revoked. However, the revocation was stayed and petitioner's registration was placed on 5 years of probation. The terms of petitioner's probation include undergoing a psychological evaluation, attending psychotherapy, reimbursing the board for its probation monitoring costs, and completing a law and ethics course. Respondent has been compliant with all of her probation requirements, with the exception of one quarterly report not being submitted timely. And respondent has paid $3,000 towards her probation monitoring costs as of October 20th of 2019. Petitioners requesting early termination of her probation. Because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements, but would reserve the right to question the petitioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Siementhal. So, Ms. McGee, now is your opportunity to present your case, and I'm assuming you'd like to testify on your own behalf?
Yes.
All right, great. And let me just ask you preliminarily, did you bring any additional documents today other than what's already in the petition packet?
Yes, I provided one letter from my employer.
Oh, great, and that's what board staff is distributing now. Okay, great. So what I have here is one letter from Jennifer Camelot and dated June 14th, 2019.
Right.
What I will do is I will mark that as Exhibit 3, correct?
Yes,
All right, Exhibit 3.
and I have received a copy.
And Ms. Siementhal has received a copy. Do you have any objection to admission of Exhibit 3?
No.
All right, Exhibit 3 is admitted. And so that takes care of that. And then other than yourself, do you have any other witnesses to testify today?
Yes, I have here with me my current supervisor, Tiffany Nielsen, to talk upon my character.
Terrific, thank you so much. And if I forget, just remind me that you have another witness at the
I
end.
will
Okay.
sure do.
Sounds good. Okay, so would you like to testify at this point in time?
Yes.
All right, I'll have you stand and raise your right hand and I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Please have a seat. And since you don't have an attorney to ask you questions, just feel free to testify freely to the board. Let them know what you believe is most relevant. And again, I'll just remind you, they have read the petition packet, so no need to repeat everything. All right, thanks.
Thank you. I just have a short thing to read, and yes. Good afternoon. First, I'd like to start by saying thank you for this opportunity to allow me to make this statement. Thank you to the panel and all those who have traveled a great distance to support me. Although this time on probation has been difficult, it has been in many ways beneficial. It has allowed me to focus on learning about myself, building skills to be a strong clinician, and acquiring daily skills to exercise sound judgment. Throughout this journey, I've participated in therapy, and it's opened my eyes to a lot of things introspectively. And particularly in therapy, I have been able to face and process traumas that in my past have greatly impacted my judgment. I've learned how to lean into difficulties, to acknowledge those difficulties and avidly work towards solving them. I've learned to be unafraid to ask for help and to use my support system to aid in making good choices. In the past, I've thought that being strong is about not asking for help. But I've learned, on the contrary, asking for help is in and of itself exercising strength. My family and friends, as well as my coworkers, are the ones I now use and rely on to help in times of distress. And they have proven, as they are here today, that they are my sure foundation. When stressed at home, I have my husband and my sisters, I have one here with me today, to talk to when my clients and staff and just the demands of the job become overwhelming. I have my coworkers to talk and to help problem solve. I have, as a requirement, I participate in a law and ethic courses. I've made, these courses have made me a more conscious and self-aware clinician. One of the most important things I've learned in the many classes that I have taken is to always consult when uncertain. In social work, there can be a lot of gray areas. It would be foolish to think that as a clinician, you have to know all the answers. For things that are black and white, solutions are simple, but when there are variances to problems, things that can be confusing. In these circumstances, I've talked with my supervisor in order to best approach matters. Because of these, I've learned, I've been able to support my clients and help them move towards a more mentally stable, sustainable, and meaningful life. I have maintained a professional and ethical reputation within my field and agency. I've prioritized with high regard the legal and ethical considerations when dealing with clinical dilemmas and when I provide provide support to my staff. I can say this has been the most important piece of my rehabilitation, naturally and professionally. I can confidently say I have had every effort to ensure I am willing, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. I've given every effort to ensure I am well informed of my duty as a clinician, and I have avidly upholded the core standards of the field of social work. Today, I'm asking the board to take my statement and the provided supportive statements of my character, both in writing and in testimony, and grant me the opportunity to end my probation early. I'm asking you to consider my achievements, which have been in direct result of my tenacity and ability and desire to learn from my mistakes and simply do better. Releasing me from the confines of probation would allow me to continue to grow personally and professionally and to continue to provide purposeful, meaningful, and transformational services to clients and as a manager. I will continue to uphold and live with integrity, excellence, and humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. McGee. Ms. Siementhal?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Are you currently seeing a therapist?
Yes,
How often?
weekly. Weekly? I'm sorry, weekly.
You have served 3 years out of your 5-year probation term, is that right?
Correct.
You generally spoke about, just at the end of your statement, why you want your probation terminated early. Can you go into more details of or why you want your probation terminated early?
I think the board always hears that it's a hardship, financial hardship, and I think that's just kind of evident that given the financial expectations of maintaining the stipulations of my probation is difficult. I feel at this point, as it comes to particularly because really the only thing that I really do is report to the board and therapy, and submit quarterly reports. I have worked diligently in really exploring self, and I feel at this point I don't think it's necessary to have it as a stipulation as I value my therapy, I think with having probation, it can be hindering as professionally. And so as to avoid continued difficulties in my moving forward professionally, I feel like given the diligence that I've performed and have been able to obtain, that I don't think that it is necessarily to have a requirement that I go to therapy, because I value therapy, and I believe that just because I am not required by the board to participate in therapy doesn't mean that I'm not going to participate in therapy. My plan is not to end my therapy, but I would like to have the leniency on being able to miss a day when I'm having to deal with and things that relate to work.
You said that, I think you're referring to the therapy, correct me if I'm wrong, that therapy can be hindering professionally. How so?
You know what? I don't think that's necessarily what I was stating. Not therapy.
Okay.
The confines of probation. So I have I've applied for jobs, and I'm a very open person. Probably not probably open to my own demise, because I want people to know who I am as an individual, and I don't ever want a person to feel like I am covering up something. So I've made that known in multiple interviews, and it has impacted my ability to obtain other employment. None to say that I am, not to say that I'm unsatisfied with where I'm at, because I truly appreciate my employer. But just in general, you know, that is an impact.
Regarding the conviction for grand theft that you had that occurred over the course of 2008 and 2009, can you explain briefly why you stole over $10,000 during that period?
When I applied for child care services, that was during a time where I was receiving therapy through GAIN services. And those services continued. I started to work for my grandfather, and during that time, he paid me, but it was not, what is it? I didn't do a W-2 or anything of that nature. So when they investigated, which I had no knowledge of when they did any investigation, I've only heard about it when I got it from the in the mail that I had to appear, that those accounts were during the time that my children were receiving their child care. And because of my grandfather's statement of acknowledging me as his granddaughter and not an employer, it caused that time frame for child care service that went to the child care provider. It never exchanged my hands. My children were in child care. Because of that, every time I filled out my application, reported my income, signed that paper, that it was seen as theft. And that's the extent of what at least what I was able to gather. I didn't go through a court hearing or what have you. At the time that it was presented and the charges were against me, I did not fight the case. I chose to resolve the matter so that I can move towards my graduate program. At that point, once I found out that I was being charged, it impacted my ability to get quality internships. So I made the decision to address the matter, plead guilty, do what I need to do, and move forward.
During your statement, or at the beginning of your statement, you stated that you learned to lean into difficulties. This is kind of a two-part question. Could you please explain what difficulties you're referring to? And then also, what do you mean by leaning into these difficulties?
When I think about the difficulties that I have experienced, and particularly when it comes to clients and when it comes to really making sure I'm being sound in my judgment, I don't want to do the wrong thing. So I am very hesitant to make the wrong choice. Having had this situation, it's caused me to become very cautious about what I engage in. And that is both when it comes to financial matters, business that I put myself in, as well as, my work. I worked in the school district for a long time. I spent a lot of time working with children, and from that experience, I came to the place in my life where I realized what I wanted to do. For a long time, I wanted to be a teacher, but a lot of the things that I wanted to do as to help the children that I worked with on a daily basis really was outside of the school. And so my goal was to help them on a bigger level outside of being in a classroom and helping them learn to read or math and those things. So I wanted to be an impact. And it took me a while to be able to find what my purpose was. And so to have gotten so far after becoming married, having, I think I had both of my kids at the time, of course, that's what I wanted to do. I was determined that was going to be my goal. So I went back to school for 4 or 5 years, from Southwest to Dominguez to USC. And I did not want anything to deter that. And all the hard work, which I have to say that hard things, it's really just has been, in my history. I've had to work really hard at learning. I've had to work really hard at maintaining school. I really related a lot to the children that I worked with. I was in resource for my whole grade school years, and I liked the people that helped me, and I wanted to help people. And so I wanted to make sure that I was there in that capacity for others. And so I didn't want anything to deter me from that. And so when I think of those difficulties, sometimes when I face struggles and things get difficult, that sometimes I want to just choose the easier route. The easier route would have been to forget about it, to not go into my grad school, because here you are, my character has been blemished, and so I could have easily folded, which has been things that I've had to really face, in my past. And so when I say to lean into difficulty, normally sometimes I'm leaning backwards, meaning this is too much. I don't want to go through this. I'm not going to do all those negative thoughts that come with it. But in this time, the things that I've learned, I lean into it, meaning that I faced it, with the understanding that in these struggles, I'm going to get something out of it, whether it feels good or not. And so that's kind of what I mean when I say nowadays you see me leaning into difficulty.
Thank you. Since you submitted your petition, have you been convicted of any criminal offenses?
Sorry, no, I have not.
That's not something to apologize for.
I have no further questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Siementhal. And now an opportunity for the board members to ask questions, starting on my furthest right with Ms. Wong.
Good afternoon, and thanks for waiting.
No problem. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come a little earlier. I appreciate that.
You're so welcome. When you talked about the incidents leading to the charge of the grand theft, so you describe a pretty good details about what went on, and so I'm just trying to understand specifically what went wrong, what things that you should not be doing in that process. I mean, I heard about your grandfather, offer you a job, but about W-2. So what actually went wrong?
I'm not sure I understand. What do you mean by what actually went wrong?
So, okay, so, because, obviously you were taking childcare, you were claiming childcare, while your children were still in therapy, but at the same time, your grandfather was, offer you a job and something about taxing, the W-2 form. So there's a lot of details. In regarding about, your situation. I just want to specifically hear that what is your part that things that you should not be doing, now in the hindsight, that, in that process, leading you to, the charge of the grand theft.
I think when it comes to things that I should not be doing as it relates to the charges, that in my part, I should have made clear understandings as to what I was doing and what in what framework was my work with my grandfather. I should have made sure that I had the necessary paperwork to make sure that I'm able to report that information to the tax board. Because of that negligence is why I'm here. I don't take that lightly. I used to file single. I'm married now. Sometimes they would tell me, well, you don't have to do it. I was like, I like to err on the side of caution. Like, it might not be required, but I'm going to do it because I don't want anything in that fashion to ever happen to me, because in no way were my intentions to be dishonest in any way. It's just that on my end, I should have been more diligent and thorough. That was my fault.
So did you have like a worker supposedly, handle your case,
Unfortunately,
you did not have
Unfortunately, no, I did not. What they allowed me to do was sit in the court and look through paperwork that I couldn't understand. What they allowed me to do is call a number that could not help me. So I was without.
So your situation was, what you didn't know until probably the fraud investigator
Correct.
found out, and then you basically were charged without really any chance to,
Right.
rebuke the situation.
Or even to really understand it. Because my public defender, the person who was assigned my case, because I can't call her my public defender because she did not defend me, she pretty much told me, well, all the cases have been, they've been charged and they've been guilty. The judge she has not seen any leniency. So my advice to you is to sign this paper. And if I'm choosing to focus on my future, as well as taking this situation where I have no really experience to rely on, the justice system is a whole thing in itself. I can't be confident in reading a form that for legal reasons to really say that I understand it. Right. And so in that sense, I tried my best to find some representation, but then here was financially, I couldn't financially do that. So it really was kind of the only decision. I had to choose a better better self, a better place for not just me, but for my family. And so that was kind of the situation that I was in.
So in a nutshell, the fraud really was coming from the fact that you should not be having employment during the time when you were receiving benefits.
No.
You were not
It was a program.
No,
Yeah.
it was, because you were working for your,
Yes, yes.
grandfather. That's
Yes.
what I meant, not like official employment. You should not be working, end of story.
Right.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, Ms. Anthony?
I just have a couple comments, no questions. I don't think I have questions. I just want to thank you because you, I think of one word for you, and I think of resilience in the criminal justice system and stuff like that. And so while you're speaking and while you were talking, I thought of one big thing because you're sharing your whole story. And the whole time I'm thinking, you are more than the worst thing that's ever happened or more than the worst thing that you've ever done. And I see that. And I want you to know that I acknowledge that and I value your statements today because you told a story, you told your story, and you told your truth, and I thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Brew?
I want to echo that and also add the word integrity to that. That's what I see. And I'm so glad you came in today to do this. Thanks.
Mr. Maddox?
Yes, I mean, I would echo everything that's already been said. There are certain probation needs that come before the board, and it's evident by their the life choices that they've made since whatever incident has occurred that brought them here, that they have, one, learned from it, and that they are committed to ensuring that it never happens again, but that it becomes clear that that was just like a speed bump in their lives. And I want you to know, just as a black person, I understand sort of the reality of having to take care of your family. I came from a family with a single mom, and not that I'm justifying what happened, but I understand what it means when you say, I still have to feed my kids. I can't live on what the government is giving me. And so I'm very sensitive to that. And I just want to say I am, don't know you, but I'm very proud that you have chosen to not only raise your family, but that you have chosen to use that circumstance as a learning lesson to move forward with your life and build a life for yourself and your family that is probably going to echo through beyond just where you are today. So just want to say, sir, you have a wonderful wife here. Just want to say thank you for coming. And you are clearly a tremendous asset to our field. So just thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Madam President, your opportunity.
Well, I'm just going to echo what everybody else said. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for using this as a learning opportunity. And that could have gone so many different ways. And you chose the high road. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Disposti?
Great. Better keep it on next to me. It's not always safe. I definitely echo. I think one of the also, sometimes our judicial system, without going too deep into it, but it really works against us and not for us. I speak for myself. I have a personal belief that childcare should be not a privilege, but a human right. And when people are trying to do their best, like my colleague was saying, no one should be punished for that, but I know it would be against the law. But at the same time, I appreciate at the same time the way, the resilience, how you address this, despite the adversities, despite the lack of support from the system per se. So I just wanted to thank you for sharing. So thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, Ms. Brown.
I just like to echo everything everyone has said. And what's really a shame is if your grandpa had given you a W-2, you probably would have qualified anyway. Yeah. And so you ended up losing $10,000.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your honesty. And I think that you clearly understand now what happened. and it won't ever happen again.
Not
So
a
thank
chance.
you for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Siementhal, did you have any follow-up questions?
No.
All right, thank you. And just to give you a final opportunity, anything else you'd like to add? Yeah, I remember about the witness, but just from, thank you so much, though. I can always use reminders, for sure. But anything else you'd like to add at this point?
I just want to say that it means so much to hear that, because that is truly what has been something that has impacted me. I pride myself of, you know, how people see me and see me in a way that is authentic. I know how difficult this field is, and to have support is monumental. I mean, it's you can't do this job without it. And so I am blessed to have so many great supports. And it's hard, and just to be just transparent, it's hard to think of the board in a fashion that when you're going through this situation that they don't understand. But a good understanding that I've been able to gain is that, you know, which we also have to do in therapy, is that it's not necessarily about you, it's about the client. And the client is our state. And so people that we are going to deliver these services to. And so I had to come to that understanding when I approach every 3 months of putting in a report and all those things. I've had to really get to that place. But today I really, appreciate seeing each person. I've watched the videos. I remember faces. And I've even been able to actually put names to faces today. I've had a few conversations with Kim Madison, and she's always been very helpful. I'm appreciative of each person I've had to come in contact with in this process, and today I am grateful to have gotten all the experience and all that comes with it, despite, all of the things. I was glad to even get a psychological assessment. I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. I've never seen it before. I'm going to be able to do it now. So it's been, a really good experience, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. McGee. And now I believe you have a witness. Who is your witness going to be?
If it's up to you guys, I mean, it's just okay.
Absolutely.
I think they came along far enough to say something on my behalf.
Yes, I mean, I think.
So the names, you want the names, right?
Yeah, you know what? They can introduce themselves individually. If you can maybe just call which one you're calling first, and then and then I'll have.
I'd like to start by having Jen Eccles come up on my behalf.
Jen Eccles. All right. Please come forward, Ms. Eccles. You can just have a seat right next to you there. Just make yourself comfortable. Actually, right before you sit, I'll have you stand up and raise your right hand just so I can swear you in. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you so much. Now you're allowed to sit comfortably.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Eccles, and I am a program manager at SHARP, which is an acronym. It stands for Southern California Health and Rehabilitation Program. It's definitely a mouthful. So Adana and I have worked together for almost 4 years, and during this time, we've both advanced from clinicians to program managers. Throughout this time, Adana has served as a model of what I aspire to be. She's always willing to assist with problem solving, takes the time to coach staff and invest in their professional development, gives sound advice, and is a dependable coworker. Everyone can relate to that student in school that is an overachiever. Adana is and continues to be that person at our agency. She's a vital member of the SHARP family. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And let me just for the record, how is your name spelled, if you don't mind?
Yes, my name, so Jennifer with 2 N's, and then my last name is Echols.
Echols.
Correct.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, thank you.
Ms. Siementhal, did you have any questions for the witness? No. All right, and then I'll go down the board, and you're welcome to, whether you...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Ms. Wong, any questions? Ms. Anthony? Ms. Brew? Mr. Maddox, Madam President?
No, thank you.
All right, no questions from the
Okay,
board.
thank you
so
so
much for your
much.
testimony. Who's your next witness?
I will ask for Gray Sanchez.
All right. Ms. Sanchez, if you can just come up. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have a seat. And if you could just state and spell your full name for the record.
Yes, my legal name is Griselda Sanchez, so it's Griselda Sanchez, Sanchez.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sanchez. Go ahead.
All right, so I worked with Adina for close to 3 years. When I came onto the agency, she was already hired. So we were clinicians together at the same time. And in the last year, we've both been promoted to program managers in South LA. I can describe Adina in many ways, but there are 3 main characteristics that are important for you to take away about her, who I've known her to be. Dedication. Dana was actually one of the clinicians that I shadowed when I first started in the agency. When I first came to the agency, I observed her firsthand, how organized she was, empathetic when working with clients, and gave me suggestions on how to balance job expectations while providing quality therapy to clients. She has a strong work ethic. I've witnessed Dana's strong work ethic, staying in late with her staff, being a team player, and always willing to assist those around her. You can always count on Adina to follow through with whatever she says she's going to do, and has been assigned with tasks. She's also supportive. Adina has shown how supportive she is, and not only the population we serve, but to her staff. I've witnessed the care she takes while working with her staff and guiding them to not only improve their skills, but to grow professionally. Adina takes an active role in being aware of her supervisory style, as well as being a support system to her clinicians while they find their footing in social work. I want to say that I value the integrity of my LCSW license, and I would not testify for just anybody. And as you guys have witnessed, Adina is just not anyone. So the 3 main characteristics that I point out that Adina's dedicated, strong work ethic, and supportive qualities are what has led me to respect her as a colleague, and is one of the reasons why I am here today, all the way from LA, because I believe that she brings value to our agency and has been a great support to me. In closing, Adina is someone I come to when needing to consult on regarding difficult cases. She's someone I respect, someone who truly cares and understands the difficulty population we serve in South LA. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sanchez. Any questions, Ms. Siementhal?
No.
All right. And then just for the sake of efficiency, if any board member has a question for the witness, could you just raise your hand and I will provide you an opportunity. I don't see any hands, so I believe you're excused. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then your final witness.
Last but not least, she has definitely been a mentor to me, Tiffany Nielsen.
All right. And if I could just have you raise your right hand as well. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have a seat. And just like with the other witnesses, if you could just... Oh, are you all right?
Yeah, sorry.
If you could state and spell your full name.
Sure, it's Tiffany Nielsen, Tiffany, last name Nielsen.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nielsen. Go ahead.
Okay, so I serve as the clinical director at Sharp and Adana's direct supervisor. And you've got a taste of how amazing Adana is, but I think to really understand what an amazing social worker she is, it's important to discuss a little bit about where we work and what we do. So we work at Sharp. It's a community mental health agency, and we provide field-based services for...
May I ask you to please slow down?
Oh, yes, sorry, I talk fast and I'm nervous. We provide field-based services for the homeless, severely mentally ill population. So as clinical director, I can tell you it's not easy to staff this position. It's not easy work, and it's definitely like social work at its core. As a case manager and as a clinician, Adana would meet with her clients on the street, at the park, in her car, wherever was best for the client. Despite the last time the client may have showered, she would put them in her car, take them wherever they needed to go, whether it was to get food, take them and all of their stuff, all of their belongings to transitional housing, slower, or to go to like any needed appointments. So it's true social work, you know, out there doing the work. So for many reasons, Adana didn't ask any clients to be here today. But if she had, this room would be filled with clients who would want to speak about Adana and what they've done for her and the ways that they've impacted her lives. So because they couldn't be here, I want to share just a couple of examples of that. Like, for example, a woman who had experienced so much trauma, she refused to leave her transitional housing and would stay in and day out. And through working with Adana, processing the trauma, the client was able to return to the workforce, obtain permanent housing, be reunited with her son. Another client came who was having frequent monthly suicide attempts. So from, developing a safety plan, removing means, helping the client move to supportive housing, to recognizing the triggers of shame and guilt. Adana worked tirelessly and continuously with the client until the client was able to agree to go to drug rehab, which was the primary trigger for the suicide attempts. The client successfully completed rehab, has maintained sobriety, and re-enrolled as a truck driver in school to become a truck driver. So at Sharp, our philosophy is it doesn't matter if you're getting community mental health on Medi-Cal or if you're paying a private practitioner in Beverly Hills, you should get the same level of service. And Adana embodies that fully. And now as you heard she's been promoted to program manager, she instills that into the staff that she works with. So working in community mental health for all these years, I've been in there for 10 years. I see many social workers come, gain experience, and then move on to more lucrative opportunities. And Adana, like she said, she deserves all of those opportunities, but I want to keep her in community mental health as long as I can because community mental health needs her and people like her. And the financial burden of probation and all of those requirements makes it hard to stay in community mental health when there's all these other lucrative opportunities, which is why I recommend that Adana be removed from probation. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nielsen. Any questions, Ms. Siementhal?
No, thank you.
And if any board members that have questions could raise their hand.
I don't have a question, but I just want to really thank the three of you that spend your time and spending, travel all the way up to Sacramento, because you guys really work in Southern California, to really, come up and give the testimony. I think that itself, that action itself, it speaks volumes, about
right.
Adana. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Wong. Anyone else would like to have a question? I don't see any hands, so I think you're excused. Thank you so much. And just for the sake of completion, is there anything else, Ms. McGee, any other evidence you wish to present?
No, I'm at peace.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms.
Your Honor,
Siementhal.
was Exhibit 3 admitted?
Let's clarify that. This was the letter from Jennifer Kalmalai? Yeah.
I have no objection if it wasn't.
No
I don't
objection,
recall.
and so just in case it wasn't, Exhibit 3 is admitted formally. All right. Thank you so much, and then that concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed, the case is submitted for decision, and we are off the record.
All right.
We're going to go get our lunches right next door here and bring them back. and we'll eat and listen at the same time.